material way in this forward.
Oh yeah, okay, y'all. Robin is the accused killer of her daughter. It's about to take the stand. Okay? So that's what we're looking at now. So thank you for joining this evening. Uh right now they in the court and they setting the court up. Uh she's sitting out there with her boo thing. I think that's her boo thing. Yeah. Like I said, that's not Robin right there. She will be taking the stand. Let's give a shout out to Law and Crime for recording this court scene. We want to give them a shout out. Uh, and I would like to thank y'all for sticking with me with this trial. Okay? Sad these days that these folks killing their own kids and sit in court like they ain't did nothing. And so you can see now, like in the courtroom, nobody there yet. So they setting up everything, the lawyer, the attorneys, and everybody in place. So when let me skip it up a little bit.
Out the door.
Let's start it right here. I think the little girl wasn't no more than about 11. Her daughter wasn't no more than about 11 years old. See how they can, and that's her right there. That's her mom. That's the mom right there with the blonde hair. The accused killer. How y'all doing this evening? Oh, what's up, nominator? How you doing? Okay, that a judge. Judge just came in. Uh, and they go the accused killer right there. Uh, my day going on good. It's one good thing about it. We don't have to go to work in the morning. This is not a movie that you're watching. The title fit the accused killer right here. The mom, uh, the one right here, alleged killed her own daughter. I think her daughter about 11 years old. Pretty little girl. So she have her date to testify. She gonna testify today, and other people gonna be testified in the behalf of the daughter. I know, we still leave these kids alone. So what I'm gonna do is,
It's a matter I need to take up with the lawyers in their absence, and we'll get them in here in a few minutes.
and she keep playing with her hair.
If you would come around to the witness stand, if you would raise your right hand and be sworn. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Have a seat, adjust that microphone if you need to. All right, the issue before the court, the state has filed a motion requesting a jury out hearing on certain topics that may be involved in cross-examination of this witness. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, let me hear what the allegations are that I need to consider before we're in the jury.
You just want to hear about it, or you want me to ask Mr. Wardlaw?
What's involved here?
This was the case of Lisa Edwards, who was being treated at Fort Sanders Hospital. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you wanted me to tell you.
For the record, you are Brandon Wardlow with the Knoxville Police Department.
Wardlaw, LAW.
Oh, I said that, sorry. Go ahead.
And can you give me your current title?
Police officer.
Okay.
Police officer, I don't think so.
Something.
Okay, I pushed it.
We've already had that happen once this week.
So, Officer Wardlaw, were you involved with the situation with Lisa Edwards at Fort Sanders Hospital?
I was.
And I believe you were the senior officer on the scene.
Correct.
I think I got a little bit too much light, y'all.
And the
Well, how
problem,
many, there were actually three other KPD officers and one left.
okay. And I think there was some security from the hospital there.
Correct.
And they had released her against her will and put her out on the street. And she wouldn't leave. And they
No,
called
that's your
her.
interpretation. She had been medically cleared by two different medical staffs.
Okay. And they put her out.
Negative, sir. She had been medically cleared by two different medical staffs. She was throwing feces at the nurses and decided to smoke inside the hospital. And when they asked her to leave, she said, call the police.
Okay. And they called you. And
Correct.
some others.
Correct.
And when you arrived on the scene, there was, at some point, a paddy wagon arrived. She was going to be taken to jail, right?
Police transport wagon arrived, yes, sir.
Okay. And did you use the police transport wagon to transport her?
Excuse me, y'all. Excuse me for a minute. No,
Why were you not able to have her?
trying to put something out, something that light off here.
Because Miss Edwards was not assisting us in putting her in the police wagon.
At that point, there were three of you there trying to get her into the wagon.
There were two of us and a transportation officer.
Okay. And was she actively resisting, or she just wasn't helping you?
She was,
Help her.
as she was, every time we would try to put her in there, she would do, you know, like you can pick up a little kid and they don't want to be picked up and they do this whole thing? That's what she was doing.
Okay. And so, at some point, she was transported in the direction of the jail.
Correct.
And how was she being transported?
In the back of a police car.
And at the scene, did she tell you that she was having trouble breathing?
She did, and I gave her an asthma pump like 5 times.
And did you ever accuse her of not telling the truth about not being able to breathe?
No, sir, I told her she wasn't using her asthma pump correctly.
Camp up. Move over.
Officer, did you assign
Excuse
someone
me,
to take
yeah.
her to the jail?
Camp up getting on my
In the back of
nerve.
the car because it was easier to get her loaded in the car than it was to get her loaded into the wagon.
Okay. And whose car did you load her into?
Officer D'Estacio's.
Okay. And did he go take her straight to the penal farm?
No, sir.
And what happened on route?
Apparently there was an incident with him, the wagon, and another vehicle, and they stopped on the side of the road.
And she died while she was in the back of that?
No, she was actually still alive, and the EMS was working her and took her to the hospital, and she still was alive. She actually wasn't declared dead until Monday,
And what day was this that she was being transported?
Sunday.
Okay. And did you have some disciplinary issues through the KPD about that?
Yeah, that was it. Yes, sir.
Okay. And at that time, your title was what?
Sergeant.
Okay. And so you were demoted from sergeant to
No, sir.
officer?
No, sir. If you go to civil service, who is in charge of the promotion process, their words will be that I was unpromoted because I didn't finish out the entirety of my probation period. The way that it was put out by the department was incorrect.
Hannibal, move over.
You would have been a sergeant had you not had this incident happen during your probationary
I
period.
would have been a sergeant if they didn't prolong my investigation and I finished my probationary period. Yes, sir.
Because that would be the issue we would be raising.
Do you have any questions of Officer Wardlaw? Step down, thank you. All right, let me hear your argument, gentlemen. You're the one that's moving to exclude this.
Your Honor, the state's position in this case, this evidence we think is not admissible under 404B. As the court knows, under the Shannon-Christensen Act, all witnesses, the victims, Christian Act, yeah.
Not Christian Son, it's Christian.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. The Shannon-Christian Act, all witnesses are afforded the same protections under 404B that the defendant is protected. So the issue would be if the defense wants to put on evidence of other crimes, wrongs, or acts. The rule specifically says they are not admissible to prove the character of a person in order to show action in conformity with a character trait. And so our position is that if the defense wants to go in this, the only reason that they would want to go into this is to offer it as action in conformity with a particular character trait. And so we think that
Some of this light
there are
off, y'all.
exceptions under 404B that sometimes.
It's really 404B, it's a 608 question, is it not? They're seeking to impeach him.
No, Your Honor, I think that this would be, well, we haven't got to the point where this would be an impeachment. Now is, does this come in under 404B? If the defense is moving to put it in under impeachment, the witness would first have to testify, and then there would have to be some impeachment we're addressing. He's not even testified yet, so we're not at 608.
That's how we're gonna get there. They're not going to move the court to introduce this evidence. We haven't even reached their case in chief yet.
Sure. And so what we're addressing right now is purely 404B, Your Honor.
Are they not seeking to impeach this witness with this event?
Your Honor, you can't impeach a witness until they testify. So no, at the point we are in trial,
Exactly. That's
at the
why we're
point we are
addressing
right
that.
now in trial, we have not heard any testimony from Brandon Wardlaw about the particular event that's here in front of the court on trial. The only thing that we are asking the court to address at this point is 404B, and we think that it does not come in under 404B. If the defense asks a question and 608 becomes an issue, then I think we need to address that at that point, but we can't preemptively address 608 before Brandon Wardlaw testifies.
General, you're getting ready to call him as a witness, are you not?
But they would have to ask,
I know, and who will ask the questions first?
the state will ask questions, Your
Okay,
Honor.
then who will ask the questions second?
That's right.
Yes, Your Honor.
Which will be what?
I thought you were talking about impeachment as in impeachment to a specific issue. Of course, they're going to cross-examine this witness.
They're
Your
trying
Honor.
to impeach his credibility as a witness, are they not? So why is that not under 608 as opposed to 404B?
I was asking for the court to address 404B right now. If we need to address 608, I'm happy to do that. But I thought the issue we were addressing right now
Are you
was...
intending to introduce this evidence in your case in chief?
No, sir. I'm going to cross-examine him, Judge, because in this case, as we have seen in the video, I believe he acted inappropriately with Ms. Howington by hugging her after she's told them, I'm uncomfortable, I was raped by a police officer.
All right.
This is another act.
Here's where we are, folks. We're going to hear his direct testimony, and we'll get the jury in here. Mr. Whalen, if you wish to address this, let's see what he testifies to. Let's see where your questions go on cross-examination. If you wish to address this line of questioning, you are to approach the bench first. and ask the court's permission before you delve into that. But it's a 608 question, it's not 404B.
And Your Honor, and that's what I'm saying, under 404B, I think it doesn't come in. If we get to the point where we're talking about 608, 608 is about character for truthfulness. And so I don't think that this in any way addresses his character for truthfulness.
608 is also specific prior bad acts.
Yes, specific prior bad acts that have to do specific conduct of a witness for the purpose.
I haven't ruled yet. I just ruled if it gets to the point where he deems it necessary to ask these questions,
Sure.
he will ask the court's sanction and permission.
That's
before
what
he
we're
does
asking the court to do. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
That judge know what he doing. Don't nobody acting like these judges don't know what they talking about. The judge know exactly what's going on. That's right, Judge. Let them know you ain't sitting there for no reason. And they wouldn't be there if she hadn't did what she did to her daughter. We wouldn't be here today. A pretty little girl. Give a shout out to Law and Crime for presenting, showing this case. I like the judge though. What's going on now, y'all? The jury is coming into the courtroom. And they need to go ahead on and start with the case and stop booing messing around and find out what happened to this baby, to this little girl.
Everyone may have a seat. Wait for call from the state or the defense. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for your patience. We've gotten started a little bit later than what I thought we would, but we've been very busy in your absence on
Excuse me.
We're still in the state's case in chief. General, you may call your next witness.
Calls Officer Brandon Wardlaw.
Raise your right hand, please, sir. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir, I do.
Have a seat, please. Adjust the microphone if you need to.
Morning.
Morning.
Would you please state and spell your name for the court reporter, please?
Brandon Wardlaw, Wardlaw.
And where are you currently employed?
The Knoxville Police Department.
What is your title at the Knoxville Police
A
Department?
police officer.
And how long have you been employed there?
17 years.
And can you tell us what was your title back in September of 2019?
I was a violent crimes investigator.
And were you assigned to the case involving Ms. Robin Howington?
I was the helper investigator with Investigator Riddle.
Okay, so is it fair to say that Investigator Riddle was the main or lead investigator, and then you were assisting him as needed throughout the investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I know that we've already seen some interviews, so I'm not going to go back through all of that, but there are a couple of things specifically that I want to talk to you about, okay? So were you on the scene at Balsam Drive on the evening of September the 14th, 2019?
For initially just a small amount of time, and then I went to the hospital, and then later that night over into the morning, we went back to the scene.
Okay, so when you go to the hospital, do you arrive before Ms. Howington gets there or after she gets there?
After.
And do you, at some point in time, come into contact with Ms. Howington?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
At this point, can you tell us what her demeanor was like?
When I first made contact with her, she was,
Just rephrase the question. What did you observe about her?
What did you observe about Ms. Howington at the hospital?
when I first made contact with her, she was in they usually call it a family room off of the emergency room by herself. The officer was outside the door. She was sitting there and she wasn't crying or anything, just kind of sitting there real solemn.
And do you know if she had her cell phone with her?
Yes, ma'am, she did have her cell phone.
And at some point at UT Hospital, do you actually have to get her cell phone from her?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell the jury about that?
Initially, when she's in this room, and I probably should have taken her phone from her at that point, but I was worried about that she still had a 2-year-old. She needed to make sure that she got situated. And also I had advised her, is there anybody you can call to come and be with you? Because this whole situation, all we're knowing is that her daughter's just been murdered. And also in telling her that, I said, we're probably going to need your phone because you called 911 from it, so there's going to be some evidence there we need to get. At this point, I go back to try to find the doctor to see what's going on with Destiny. When I come back, I'm approached by Officer Tucker, who was the officer that was standing outside the door, and he tells me that Ms. Howington has tried to give her phone to someone in the restroom. So at that point, I go and I get the phone from Ms. Howington.
Did you ask her whether or not she had attempted to give her phone to someone?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And what was her response?
She did.
Okay. And I am going to show you something. Do you recognize this envelope here?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And do you know what it contains?
Right here it says an iPhone 6.
And is that the same phone that you actually physically took from Ms. Howington that night?
I would have to look at it to be sure.
Okay. Is there any sort of initial or anything on the back?
Looks like it says BT 81123.
Okay. All right. And so once you took the phone, can you tell us what you did at that point? Like where you took it from there?
When I initially took the phone, I noticed that the screen was cracked on it and it was wet. So I took it, and because I didn't want to be handling a wet phone, I got paper towels until I could get a rubber glove to put it in. Once we left the hospital, I kept the phone in my possession. We went back to the 3rd floor where the offices were, and I actually found a empty paint bucket, and I can't remember exactly who, but I got somebody to go get me a bag of rice, and I put the phone in the rice in the paint bucket.
Okay. And so from there, did you then get the phone and introduce it into KPD's evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so just tell us a little bit about how that procedure works when you take a physical piece of evidence and admit it into KPD's evidence locker.
The phone will have to be, you have to put it in an envelope and seal it, and then with the tape on it, so that way nobody's been in it after you've already sealed it. And there's also more paperwork you have to fill out to send in with the phone to deal with what we call the chain of custody, everybody who has touched the evidence from that point on.
Now, did you physically put the phone in the envelope and seal it?
No, ma'am.
And who was it that did that portion?
The phone was given to, since Investigator Riddle was the lead, the phone was given to him.
Okay.
Well, the paint bucket was given to him, and at some point, he took the phone and did what he needed to do with it.
Okay. And so you said that the phone was wet and cracked.
Yes, ma'am.
Had you observed the phone prior to receiving it from Ms. Howington at any point?
I did not.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about when you encounter Ms. Howington at the hospital. Did you notice anything on her arms or hands that appeared like a reddish-brown substance?
No, ma'am. I didn't see anything on her that would have looked out of the ordinary or caused me any concern.
Did you see any on her dress?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And so were you physically in the room when the doctors were telling Ms. Howington about her daughter's condition?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you in the room when they told her that her daughter was deceased?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you describe what you observed at that point?
She went from just like kind of solemn state to there was crying at that point. It wasn't like, I would say, typical in one of those situations where you tell a parent their child has died. We have what we call it, I call it, an old Lord of Jesus. A lot of times you tell a person that their child has died and they lose it. It wasn't one of those. It was still very like low-key somber, but she did cry at that point.
And so after you all leave the hospital, do you all then go back to interview Ms. Howington?
Yes, ma'am.
When you're doing investigations like this, is it typical that you interview victims or their family members pretty soon after a crime has been committed?
Yes, ma'am. And especially in this case, we would need to interview the only witness we had. And at that point, this was the only witness we had, so we would have to try to get as much information from that person as soon as possible so we could figure out which direction we need to start going with the investigation.
And so when you're at the hospital and going back to interview Ms. Howington, at that point in time, are you treating this like a murder investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
And why is that?
Because we don't know at this point. All we know is we have a dead 5-year-old. And if we treat it like anything else, there's a good possibility we're going to miss stuff. So we have to treat it like it is the top of the food chain until we find like it's not. And that doesn't mean just because it falls under murder, we're still not going to treat it with importance. But when you have a murder of a 5-year-old, everything stops. And you're going to treat that like it is the most important thing that just has taken place.
That's right.
Did you also believe that you potentially had a suspect at large?
Yes, ma'am.
And where did that information come from?
That was from the 911 call that Ms. Howington made, that she had said that there was a random black male that came in her house and shot her daughter.
Okay, and so before that 911 call, to your knowledge, Ms. Howington had not had any contact with the police?
I had not had any contact with her before then.
And so when you're hearing that there is a strange black male that has broken into her home and shot her 5-year-old daughter, again, that's not something that you posited in her mind. That's what she's telling 911. Is that
Correct.
accurate? Okay.
Well, why he shoot a
Now, I
5-year-old?
want to talk about once you're back at the interview at KPD on the 3rd floor. So it's you, Investigator Riddle, and Ms. Howington in the room. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I guess just for clarification, do you see Ms. Howington, the person that we've been talking about, Robin Howington, do you see her in the room?
Yes, ma'am.
If you could just point and describe what she's wearing.
She is the young lady at the defense table in the green top with the blonde hair.
Your Honor, if we could have the record reflect she is identified. He is identified the defendant. Okay, so once you're back at KPD, you're on the 3rd floor, you're doing the interview. At some point during that interview, does Ms. Howington make a statement that she had been raped?
Correct. She does.
She made that statement to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And so at some point, does she begin to cry and you hug her to console her?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm actually, I'll show you. Okay, just to be clear, you hug her after she has kind of said in passing that she was raped. Is that right?
It was after that. It was a little while after that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I want to, just so that we're clear, I want to show you the exact moment here. Or if we could have the screen.
So, you think he would do anything to hurt this?
Again, is this you seated here?
Yes, ma'am.
I can't really answer that because I've got around. I mean, he won't even let me know where he lives. And she's scared of him.
So this situation that you seen happened yesterday, or that possibly happened today?
What do you mean?
Them getting into, could that possibly took place today?
I don't
Not
understand.
yesterday, them getting into it at your house, could that
No,
possibly?
it was Friday.
You pop,
We got 3 different videos on this. I do apologize. I don't remember exactly which one it's on.
you don't cover anything?
39. Oh, yeah.
But you know,
And he had
I don't know,
because we've got witnesses.
what was he wearing?
he had on a black shirt, and he had a black coat on.
Did you ever see him when you first got home? You think he really was following you?
I think that he was just watching.
I think you're right. I think the video is going to tell us that he was probably sitting, watching and waiting for you to come home. That's we knew this is domestic. And we figured the whole time that you're scared. We understand it. We just don't want you to lie to us. You know what's more than you're okay. You're okay.
This is what this is all.
Okay, so is this the moment in time in the interview when you hug her?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you hug her?
Because at that point, like I told her, no matter what you think about her, no matter the situation, she lost a child. And so at that point, I had been trying to get her to have somebody there with her. She didn't have anybody. I felt that she finally was starting to tell us the truth. And like I said, she's lost a child. So I was trying to console her.
And we see a hand kind of right there at the back of your neck. Is that Miss Howington's hand?
Yes, ma'am.
At any point in time, did she tell you that she was uncomfortable?
No, ma'am.
At any point in time, did you pull your firearm out
No,
during
ma'am.
this interview?
No, ma'am.
Did she try and push you away
No,
whenever
ma'am.
you gave her a hug? She actually, it seems as though she's hugging you back. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Okay. Have you ever
Move, Camper.
dealt with victims of rape before?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you hugged victims of rape?
Yes, ma'am.
Do victims of rape, in your experience, sometimes need consoling in that manner?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so, just to be clear, did Ms. Howington make any indication to you that she was uncomfortable when you were doing this?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So again, I don't want to go into the full statement or anything just because we've heard a lot about that. I want to talk to you now about when the story, Ms. Howington's story changes from this strange black male to it's now thinking it's Antoine. Okay, do you recall that portion of the interview?
Yes, ma'am.
And so when we're listening to the interview, we can kind of hear you say, you know, I think that this might have been Antoine. Do you recall saying that?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you just explain why it was that you said that?
In doing this job, you usually don't have people hurt kids in that manner. That Destiny was hurt, that she was murdered. That very, very rarely happens. When something like that does happen, it's usually connected to some domestic incident of one parent saying, if I can't have the child, you can't have the child. So we had, before we went in to speak with her, we had found where there had been a history of domestics between Ms. Howington and Destiny's father. And then even in the interview, she's telling us, I thought it was for me. So taking the totality of all that stuff, I don't think there's a random black guy that came in her house. I think that the black guy, so we know Antoine's black, I think that's the black guy that came in the house and shot Destiny. It makes more sense than random black guy came in and shot my 5-year-old and didn't touch me or my 2-year-old. That just didn't line up with what we were being told. But the fact that there's a history of domestics, this is the father of the child, this is the only person that's hurt during this incident, it lined up and made more sense.
Okay, so just to be clear, for the timing of this, when you say Antoine specifically, is this after Miss Howington has said to you that she believes the shot was intended for her?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you intending to put any sort of ideas in Miss Howington's head or anything like that?
No, ma'am. I was just trying to get some sort of truth because we hadn't been able to get anything out of her truthfully to go forward and trying to find justice for this murdered 5-year-old.
Okay. And so after the interview at KPD, you and Detective Riddle and Ms. Howington, do you all then go back to the home on Balsam Drive?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so when you're at the home on Balsam Drive, I want to talk to you about
Well, why would he shoot him? I just still can't believe this man killed his daughter. killed the 5-year-old.
This is the closet from Miss Howington's house that we went back, looked at. The
Tampa.
stool too.
Oof.
This is the top of the closet where all the high heels were. This is the door on that closet. Also in the top of that closet, on one of these pictures, there's a black bag in the top of the closet. And then it's just more pictures of the closet.
Okay, so I want to talk to you first of all about that black bag you just mentioned that is sitting up in the top of the closet. Was that black bag sitting in the top of the closet when you arrived back at Boston Drive?
No, ma'am.
Where was that bag located?
It was hanging on the back of the closet door.
Okay, so we've got another picture in here showing the closet door upside down. So it looks like on the back side here that there is a knob on the, so if you have the closet closed, there would be a knob on that side, is that clear?
Correct.
But on the other side, there's just the end of this knob, I guess. There's not actually a knob that you can turn, is that right?
Correct.
And so where was that bag hanging?
It was hanging on the side with the knob.
Okay, so let me pull those up here, just so that the jury can see it. Okay, so once again, just so the jury can see, we see on one side, we see a knob. The other side is just the end of the set, but it does not have the knob. And so was the black bag initially hanging on the knob on the back of the closet door?
Yes, ma'am.
And at some point in time, that black bag, obviously, because we see it in the pictures, does it get moved to the top of the closet?
Yes, ma'am.
Who moved that black bag to the top of the closet?
Miss Howington.
Did you instruct her to move that black bag to the top of the closet?
No, ma'am.
Why did you move it back?
We had went back and took the stool over so we could do all the measurements. And she's standing there beside me, and she goes, the gun was in this bag. And she takes the gun and puts it up in the top of the closet.
The gun or the
bag.
bag?
She took the bag. I apologize. She took the bag. After she said the gun was in this bag, she takes the bag and she sticks it up in the closet.
Okay.
And I was kind of shocked by that because I'm sitting there like, did anybody else see her move this bag?
And so, just to be clear, at this point in time, Ms. Howington has essentially said that her 2-year-old son, Gavin, was the shooter by now, is what she's telling you.
Correct.
Right? And so, you go back to the home and you move the stool because, did you do that because of something Ms. Howington said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did she specifically say that Gavin moved the stool?
She said Gavin moved the stool, so we were getting the height of the stool and also how much the rest of the length it would have been to get up to the top of that closet.
Okay, and while you're in that first interview, does she ever mention this black bag?
No, ma'am.
And so, according to Ms. Howington's statements, both at KPD and while she's there in the home, Gavin climbed up on the stool, reached in the black bag, got the gun, and came down. Is that a fair
Yes, ma'am.
representation of what she told you? Okay.
I take the bag. I don't know if she said it was a black bag during the first interview. She said there was a bag. I don't know if she said what color it was, though.
Okay. But just to be clear, when you then arrive at the home, is there a stool in front of that closet?
No, ma'am.
Is there a bag in the top of that closet?
No, ma'am. There's nothing but high heels in the top of that closet.
Okay. At some point, did Ms. Howington even suggest that Gavin got her high heels?
Yes, ma'am.
And again, where were the high heels located?
In the very top of the closet.
Okay. And so, stool was not at the closet when you all arrived, and the bag had been hung on the back of the closet door. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I am going to get back to this phone very quickly, and actually I'm going to ask you, other than those passages, to see if you recognize the contents of it. If you.
Wonder did she have anything against her daughter?
Well, I don't know if I can get my hands in these gloves. We'll do the best we can.
That's the phone, y'all.
It's in pieces. But this is the phone now.
You say now, but you see the
This
portion
is,
there.
this is the screen that was on it when I initially got it. And it had to be rebuilt and put another, this is a screen that was initially on it when I took the phone. And it had to be rebuilt and another screen had to be put on it so we could try to get the contents from within the phone.
And do you recognize that to be the phone that you took from Miss Howington's person that night?
Yes, ma'am.
I wonder if we can have this marked and filed as the next meeting.
So that's how they do the cell phones. Kind of new to me.
And so, going back to that phone for just a second, did you actually even try and get into that phone sort of while you're doing the interview so that you could help Miss Howington by contacting family or loved ones or figuring out what happened with Gavin?
Before the interview, I tried to get into the phone. I had told her at the hospital I would find out what was going on with Gavin. And I told her I would try to find someone to be there with her. So I tried to turn the phone back on to get a number out for her, but the phone wouldn't come back on. At the beginning of the interview, I even explained it to her that I was unable to get a number out of the phone because I can't get it back home.
So, despite the fact that Miss Howington tells numerous stories and is
She knew what she did to
said
that
to be
phone.
untruthful, are you still trying to help her, trying to console her throughout the interview?
I think I was.
And were you just trying to get to the bottom of who shot her 5-year-old daughter?
Judge, she's vouching for the witness.
I can
It's
rephrase
obvious
it.
what they were doing. Let's move along.
Okay. I can have just a second, Your Honor. What was your goal of interviewing Miss Howington that night on the 14th?
Finding out who had killed her daughter, Destiny.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Whalen, cross-examination.
Thank you.
Why did
Officer
you?
Wardlaw.
Morning, sir.
What happened?
Asked you, did she tell you when you that she was uncomfortable with that? Right?
Correct.
And you said she didn't tell you, she didn't say anything about being uncomfortable with that. Right?
No, sir, she did not.
Okay.
Well, you just said she was
But at
comfortable.
the very, very, very beginning of this statement to you and Investigator Riddle, that was about a 16-minute. You remember? Were you there when she was first put in the interview room? Oh,
I can't say if I had made it back by then or not.
I think Riddle brought her into the room. And if I tell you it's about 16 minutes before the two of you come in to start the interview, would that surprise you?
It would not surprise me.
And within about 10 minutes of that entry to that room in the beginning of this interview, she told you and Riddle that she was uncomfortable because she had been raped by a police officer, right?
I think her word was nervous. You have the video. But
So
she
why
said
you
something
hugged
about being
her?
raped by a police officer.
Could I have control on the system? Could I have control on the system, please?
Why would you hug her?
So she told you she was uncomfortable.
I don't think the word was uncomfortable, sir.
What do you think she told you?
I'm not sure you have the video. If you want me to vouch for a particular
Are
word.
you serious? Your daughter is dead? I know that. This is your chance to tell the truth.
I said, let's try, because I know at the hospital, you said you had to go to the bathroom, right? And you tried to give your phone to some lady, correct? And she wouldn't take it. So after she didn't take the phone, what'd you do with it?
I mean, are you gonna charge me with something?
What'd you do?
That's tampering?
Well, it's because
So what, no, so what you're telling us is you don't care.
it's not that I don't care. I got raped by a police officer, so please.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you serious?
So right there, she's telling you, I got raped by a police officer, right?
Correct.
And how many police officers are in that little room with her right now?
2. Neither one of them have raped her though.
Dan,
I know that.
and you don't want to tell
And
us
this is
who
how
killed
little
your
it's
child?
No.
Lord have mercy, do you have a heart? Do you have a soul?
More worried about being charged for throwing that phone in the toilet.
You're fucking right. No, she will be charged. You're going to be charged with tampering. That's tampering with evidence. I'm serious to God. You're going to go to jail for that tonight. You can lawyer up, do what you want to. We want the truth from you. If you tell us the truth, then by George, I'll call the damn DA's office and tell them.
When she told you she'd been raped by a police officer, she was telling you the truth, wasn't she?
Objection, Your Honor. No way.
Calls for speculation. He wouldn't know that.
You know she was raped by a police officer.
At that point, no, sir, I did not.
You do now, right?
No, I actually still haven't seen it. I've heard that she was, but I know nothing about that case, sir.
So you don't know anything about this 2-inch thick TBI investigation of the rape of Ms. Howington by an officer in Sullivan County?
No, sir, because you just said it was TBI, and TBI files aren't public record, so I wouldn't be able to get a copy of that.
And this was a homicide investigation, and you were trying to get to the truth, but since, nobody at TBI would talk to any of you, would they?
Not that night, no, sir.
Or any other time? You didn't ask, did you? Did you ever, this came to me from the prosecution's office. Did you not talk to them about the fact that she claimed she'd been raped?
Your Honor, may we approach, please?
He said he didn't know, Mr. Whalen. No, continue the cross-examination.
I understand, Judge. The question is not did he know. The question is, you all are telling her, if you tell her the truth, it'll be okay. She told you that truth, and that's what she got for it, wasn't it? She said, I was raped by a police officer, and he loses his mind and starts yelling and screaming and claiming she ain't got a soul in her heart.
Sir, as horrible as rape is, that's not what we were there for that night. That was, like you said, that was a case that had happened before that we had nothing to do with. The fact at hand that night was we had a 5-year-old that was shot and murdered, and that's what we were trying to find out.
And you just brought the mother of that 5-year-old from the hospital where you were present 40 minutes before this, right?
Correct.
When the doctor told her, your daughter is dead, right?
Correct.
And so you said you were going to take her phone because she called 911, right? That's what you just testified to.
Negative, sir. I said that we were going to call because there could be some evidence in there, and we knew she could use 911 to call. You knew she'd use it to call 911.
You said she used it to call 911, so there was evidence in the phone. Evidence of what? A 911 call?
That and who knows what else.
And that gives you the right to take her phone because she made the 911 call?
Well, sir, if you actually remember what I said, I didn't take her phone when I said that. I let her keep her phone. I didn't take her phone until she tried to give it away to a stranger in this room and destroy it. That's when I took her phone. I had told her she could keep her phone so she could try to keep in contact with where Gavin was and try to find someone to come be with her. So I never took her phone until she gave me a reason to take her phone, sir.
You said when she was in the family room that I should have taken her phone. She called 911 and there would be evidence on that phone.
Should and did aren't the same thing. And I did not take her phone at that time. I left the phone with her.
Why should you have taken the phone from the mother because she called 911?
Because, sir, you know just as well as I do, it's exculpatory evidence. And if I don't take it, then you'll bring it up that I should have got her phone.
Get on, boy.
In situations like these, to make sure that there's nothing we're missing, we take those phones. And I didn't take the phone until she gave me a reason to take the phone.
Are you telling this jury that every individual who calls a 911 on a homicide, you take their phone?
Telling you when there's questions to the homicide, yes, we'll take their phone and download it and see the contents of it. Yes, sir.
Have you ever been involved in the investigation of a homicide when in 2 hours later there weren't questions?
I can't tell you about every homicide I've ever worked, sir. But I can tell you in this one that there were a lot of questions. And even though how you're trying to paint this, I didn't take Ms. Howington's phone until Ms. Howington gave me a reason when she tried to destroy evidence.
Understandable.
I'm saying you testified that you intended, you should have taken the phone.
Should and did is two totally different things, sir.
And I just asked you about why you should, sir. If you say
Your Honor,
these
I
things,
think that he's answered at this point.
Ask and answer, Mr. Whalen. Just,
you testify, I'm going to ask you a question about what you
The
say.
judge just said I answered it, sir.
You continue to testify, I'm going to continue to ask you questions about what you said. Okay?
I have no problem answering those questions, sir.
So, did you think that was the appropriate way to deal with a woman who just told you she'd been raped by a police officer?
I wouldn't have
That's
touched him.
appropriate when you want to find out who just killed a 5-year-old.
It's appropriate to jump up, pound on the table, yell and scream and say, don't you have a heart?
Your Honor,
Don't you have a soul?
At this point, we're talking about conduct of another person, we're talking about conduct of Investigator Riddle. Mr. Whalen has already cross-examined Mr. Riddle.
it's fair game. Play the video again, General. Overruled.
Do you think that's appropriate behavior for a woman who's just told you she was raped by a police officer?
I think it is appropriate behavior when you're trying to figure out who murdered a 5-year-old and your only witness is not being truthful with you. I do think that is appropriate behavior.
You don't know if she's being truthful with you.
Sir, she just tried to destroy evidence, sir.
She tried to get
Innocent
us-
people don't destroy evidence, sir. Sorry.
And I just asked you, it's true that she got raped.
I-
She told you the truth and that's what she got for it.
And I told you I had no idea at that point if what she was telling me was the truth.
That's
Well,
right.
you even said yourself you didn't get that until you got it from the prosecution. So how am I supposed to get it to know on the same night?
I don't say you have to know it on the same night. Maybe if you'd given her a couple of hours or a day or two to get her mind together over after the loss of her daughter, you would have had more information, wouldn't you?
Well, sir, the reason that she wasn't given any time, like you keep trying to say that we just took her and threw her in a room, is because she tried to destroy evidence. So now we need to figure out why in a murder trial, when your 5-year-old daughter was shot, you're more concerned about destroying your phone than you are about helping us figure out who this unknown black male that you claim shot your daughter.
The only way you knew she was trying to get rid of her phone was because she wasn't allowed to get in that ambulance and go to the hospital by herself. She went with a police officer and it was handed off to you at the hospital, right?
Sir, I don't know if she wasn't allowed to get the ambulance. I just know that she was there sitting in a room and I went to speak with her and I wanted to make sure that she knew where Gavin was. And when I went, then I spoke to the doctor. When I came back, she had tried to destroy the phone.
You do know that in a police-involved shooting, the police officer will get time to get videos and records and review all those before they talk to an investigator, don't they?
Police officers actually, when a police officer is involved, they have to give a statement the day of. And then they come back and give another statement, which Ms. Howington actually did.
So they don't get 48 to 72 hours.
You give a statement the day of, and then you get 48 to 72 hours to come back, as which she did.
No. She gave a statement 40 minutes after being told her daughter's dead.
Officers have to give a statement immediately when they're involved in a critical incident. Let me try, okay, I'll try this again. If an officer is involved in a critical incident, the day of that incident, that officer has to give a brief statement to the police department. Then that
Exactly.
officer leaves, and then they come back and give another statement 2 days later. So what he's trying to make you think that officers just get to go home and there's nothing, that's not true. They do give a statement that day, any officer involved.
So if there's been different testimony about that, you're right.
You should be able to find a general order, sir, and the general order will tell you that.
How would you define a brief statement?
You would be able to find the general order, sir.
4 hours of a statement is brief.
The 4 hours is what her statement was, is because the truth didn't come out in it, sir.
And police officers, when they're involved in shootings, is it usually their child who has died?
No, sir, it's not.
And you would agree that's a much more emotionally charged situation, wouldn't you?
Yes, sir, it is.
So police officers, professional, trained police officers need a little time to figure things out. 48 to 72 hours. How about a grieving mother who's just been told her daughter is dead?
So the difference is, if a police officer is involved with a shooting, with there being body cams and cruiser cams and everything, they're going to be able to go and look at that and can further continue the investigation without having that officer there giving
Right.
an interview. In this situation, we don't have that. All we have is a statement is that a random black man came in off the street and shot this little girl.
That don't make
And then we have
sense.
a broken cell phone from the mother after she's told that we're possibly going to need it. that seems to make us think there's a little more going on here than what we're being told. So if we didn't continue on with the investigation, that would be negligent on our part.
That's
I understand
right.
she's a grieving mother, but also there's a dead 5-year-old that we need to figure out what happened to her.
That's
And
right.
we need to also make sure there's not some random black guy running into people's houses killing kids.
And let me ask you, you were asked about her changing her story, right?
Correct.
Who is the first individual in that interview room who mentioned Antoine Oliver as a possible suspect?
I did.
At first you said, what do you think? That's probably a problem, right? Since you're not with him and you got this other boyfriend. That's what you told her, right? What's the deal now?
No, I asked her what was the deal. I didn't say it was a problem. I asked what was the deal with it.
You said you're not with him, you're with this other guy. How does that work?
Sir, I don't feel comfortable with you trying to make me recall things when you have the video and you can show on the video to say exactly what I said.
There you go. Show the video. Show the video.
Do you recall saying, after bringing Antoine up,
I would like to see the video if you're going to try to something that I said, sir.
when you go home and watch the video, I'm going to ask you for this transcript, sir.
Well, can I have a copy of the transcript also? Can I have a different copy, sir?
Well, just look at this one, and if you recall saying that, read it to yourself.
Just that paragraph, read that to yourself. Take your time.
He got old man said to the lawyer do. He got a video. Don't let him let you lose it.
Yes, sir.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall making that statement?
Correct.
And the statement that you made was, I'm going to be straight with you. I feel like it's her dad, and I feel like you don't want to tell us that. I feel like he's pissed off about all this stuff that's going on. You won't let him see her. She's scared of him. I feel like he came in here pissed off and he did it. And you're scared to say something because it's going to be the same thing that's been going on down in the past. I feel like that's what happened. You don't want to say it because you're scared. That's what you said, right?
Correct.
Read that next statement. Mr. Riddle in your presence.
I think you are too. I think he's hit the nail on the head. I don't think he intended to kill the little girl. I think he was going to shoot and scare.
So, that's you laying out that Antoine did it. Mr. Riddle here saying, oh, you hit it right on the nail. I think that's what happened too. And that's when the attitude changed from yelling and screaming, and it's shortly after that that you decided what all you need, honey, is this, and you give her all. Right?
No, sir, again, from the onset, when I dealt with her, my concern was you need someone here with you. At the beginning of the interview, when I come in the room, I told her I've checked in. I've tried to call somebody to be here with you. She says the only person I know is my mom. So from the onset, even though you're trying to play like it's not, I was concerned with her having someone there with her.
And ain't nothing wrong with
I
that.
understand all of that. That's not what I'm asking you, officer. Here's the thing. You're saying you are only concerned about this Howington's well-being, and you have somebody there to support her. And then you watch Riddle lose his mind and yell and scream at her. Did you ever stop and say, oh, whoa, hang on there, Riddle. Let's talk a minute. Did you ever say that?
No.
You didn't care. And then
I'm sorry, sir, I don't think you can tell me what I thought at that moment.
how many times did you say to her, you don't care?
You can't tell me what I thought at that moment, sir.
Well, I can tell you what you said. How about that?
What did I say at that moment, sir?
You don't care. I don't think you care.
You said that I didn't care about what Investigator Riddle was doing, and you can't tell me how I felt about Investigator Riddle.
I'm saying you didn't have any problem with telling her that she didn't care about her 5-year-old being dead, but you didn't bother to tell him, hey, Riddle, back up a minute.
Her actions were showing that she was only worried about herself and that phone.
Okay, so we can clarify that you believe that that was perfectly good conduct on Riddle's part.
Did I say that, sir? Did I say that, sir?
You just said it was her actions that brought all that on.
No, sir, I did not say that. Those are your words you just said. I just said,
Tell me.
what I said is that she was more worried about herself and that phone. She wasn't worried about her 5-year-old. I never said anything about what Investigator Riddle did or how I felt about it.
You just told the grieving mother that she was more concerned about her phone than her dead father.
What does the evidence show, sir?
I'm asking you.
Well, I'm asking you, what does the evidence show? She was more worried about that phone. She tried to give a phone to a random stranger in the restroom, then break it, and then put water on it. You're more concerned about that phone and the contents of that phone than you are about making sure we find out who killed your daughter. I don't know how else you can look at that.
Can you understand how she might not think you give a damn about her daughter when you yell and scream at her in the interview room?
I never yelled and screamed at her, sir.
But you think it's okay because you think
That wasn't him. That was the other officer.
Sir, for the fourth time,
Let him answer the
for the
question.
fourth time, I've told you, yell at her, and I didn't say that it was okay to yell at her. I said what she had showed us was that she was
He
more
didn't
worried
yell at
about
her. The other
and at
detective
that point, the
yelled.
most important thing that night was a dead 5-year-old. We ain't the dope police. We the murder police. We worry about dead bodies. I don't care if she had sold dope to everybody in Knoxville in that phone. That was not my concern. My concern was why a little girl was dead and why we weren't getting answers from the only witness. That was my concern that night.
Both of you folks here, you and Riddle, as long as you've been on the police force, it has always said the same thing on the side of your car. Protect and serve.
Yes, sir.
Does that apply to Ms. Wardlaw? I'm sorry, God help me.
It does
Does that
apply to my
Ms.
wife.
Howington?
Yes, sir, it applies to my wife, but it does apply to Ms. Howington also.
Were you protecting and serving her interests at that moment? Of a grieving mother?
This is what I'm gonna have to say. First of all, this is not relevant, it's not an appropriate question.
He can ask the question, but Mr. Whalen, it's been asked and answered. I'll allow you to ask this one question and go to another topic.
When you reached out to hug her, were you protecting her or were you using investigative tools?
I was consoling a mother whose child had died, sir.
Now, in your unit, you explained to her, you and Riddle both, that your unit deals with homicides and rapes and robberies, violent crimes, right?
Correct.
So you have handled rape cases before?
Yes, sir, I have.
Would you ever hug a rape victim when you're interviewing them?
Yes, sir, I have. One of my really good friends and her mother from one of my rape cases that we're actually really good friends now. They send me Christmas cards because we've made a bond.
You think it's okay for a police officer to hug a rape victim?
If that's what that person needs at that time and they're not telling you they don't want it, yes, that's perfectly fine. I've hugged plenty of rape victims and other victims and suspects in that room.
I would have never touched him.
Phrase, I'm scared I was raped by a police officer, is not a way of telling you I'm probably not interested in a hug from a police officer right now.
Now, again, you're asking me to speculate. All I know is,
Speculated that she needed a hug.
sir, her child just died. You know, she needed someone to be there with her, like I had told her from the beginning. And she chose to destroy her phone instead of call someone to be there with her. So I was there, she was crying, and I gave her a hug. And I would do it again, sir.
Have you listened to the phone through the cruiser video from now Trooper Tucker's vehicle who transported her to the hospital?
I have not listened to that.
When she's telling someone on the phone, please come down to UT, I'm in a police car, they're taking me there, come to UT, please.
Your Honor, the witness said he
He
hadn't
just said
listened
he
to it.
hadn't heard it.
Well, he just said she hadn't called anybody, she didn't know.
She didn't call anybody when I told her to. She destroyed the phone. And I wasn't able to look and see because the phone wouldn't come back on when I attempted to get
Because
the
it
phone
had
numbers
water
for her
in it.
to call someone.
She know what she was
Still in the
doing.
interview. Your phone's not coming on. I can't get numbers for you to call anybody.
He said, call your mama, she said, it'll give her a heart attack.
And I said, again, I tell her she needs to call somebody.
She needed somebody down there, didn't she? Because otherwise, all she's got is two cops screaming at her in the interview.
Again, sir, I never raised my voice. I never screamed at Ms. Howington.
But you did change her story.
No, she changed her story because just as well, she could, when I asked her if she did it, she said no. So she has the capability of also saying no, that Antoine didn't do it. But again, the only thing she was worried about that night was the phone and herself.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up.
You asked her at one point, what about Antoine? Do you believe he could have done this? Remember that?
You'll have to show me again.
Have you prepared at all for your testimony here today?
I don't remember everything word for word, sir, and I don't think there's a need of you keep taking shots. Anita, you keep trying to take personal shots at me. I don't think that's called for.
Who took the personal shot?
You, sir.
Because you keep asking me to show it to you?
Yes, sir. If you're asking me to testify to something on this stand and you have it and I can verify that I've said it, I would like to see it. You refuse to play the video, so I would like to read it.
You understand? I get to ask the questions the way I choose, right?
You do, and I get to ask if I can make sure that what I'm testifying to is
That's
correct.
right.
How many times on direct did you ask to be shown the transcript of the video?
There wasn't. She showed me the video, sir, and she showed me the photos.
Don't let him let you lose it now. But you supposed to show it to her.
You recall her telling you in that interview,
And you should still ain't
I don't
showed
believe
him.
it wasn't Antoine. I promise. Do you remember her telling you that?
Can you show me that in the transcript?
Sir, answer the question.
You're asking me for exact phrase that was said. So if you want me to testify to an exact phrase, I would like to see it.
do you remember? That's the proper question.
This is not your witness. Don't go ahead and make the objection. Answer his question, therefore, law. Do you remember? And if you don't, you don't. I mean, and then he can show it to you to refresh your recollection.
There were so many different variations of what happened. I can't tell you exactly word for word. You're asking me to tell you something word for word.
I'm not asking you to tell me a stinking thing word for word. I'm asking you, do you remember her telling you it wasn't Antoine? I promise. Well, can I get that answer, yes or no? Because you're asking me questions word, and I don't know.
I told you there were several variations of what she told us. So I don't know if she said Antoine was there. She said he wasn't there. She said he did it. He said he did it. She said a whole myriad of people did it.
And nobody mentioned Antoine until you did.
Because, and I've already explained to you why that was brought up, sir.
Why you hugged her? That's what I don't understand. If she had said that a cop don't raped her before, I would have never hugged her. Because she could lie on you. And where's that other detective that was in that room?
Now, we'll get back to that in a second. You say that when you went to the bedroom, when you went back to the house at the end of the year, right?
Correct.
Back to Ms. Howington's house. And talked about the photograph of
Never would have touched her.
and Ms. Howington had told you during the interview that she kept the gun in a bag on the top shelf of the closet, right?
Correct.
She walks in that room, and it's your testimony that she then showed you introduced Exhibit 35. It's a collective. One of those photographs is this. Is that the bag that she placed into on that shelf?
Yes, sir.
Now, you say that the whole purpose of talking to Ms. Howington at that point is you wanted to get information, right?
I didn't say that. I didn't say the purpose of us talking to her right then was for me to get information. No, sir.
So the reason, you didn't say the reason she went from the hospital to KPD for an interview was because she's the only witness and you needed to get information.
You just asked if I said it at the house. I didn't say I went to the house. Well, the way you phrased it was confusing. I didn't go to the house to get information from her. We went back to the police headquarters to speak with her to get information for her. I haven't spoke about why we went to the house. I just spoke about what took place at the house.
Don't let me confuse you. You told me earlier the reason you couldn't give her any time was because you had a homicide with 5 years old. You needed to get the information
This is how
That's
Robin
why we went to the
Howington
police station, not to the house. And you're asking
case,
about the
y'all.
house now. So I don't see how those correlate.
Your Honor, if you could let the witness answer.
Don't talk over each other. Ask the question, answer the question, do not talk over each other. Ask it again.
4 hours later, when you go to the house, maybe 5 hours, this is 4 a.m., she's trying to give you information and show you that's where the black bag was, in the closet, right? I'm putting it there.
No, sir. I think she was just putting it up there because it wasn't matching up what she was telling.
That's right. It was behind the door.
Moving something in the crime scene, right?
Correct.
Okay.
She said it was hanging on the door.
Stool in the closet on another photograph in that same exhibit, right?
Correct.
When did that stool get into the closet in that photograph?
After we placed it there, after we took all over.
Well, that lady took that bag, the bag had the gun. It was in the bag behind the door, and she took the gun and she put the gun inside the bag up in the closet. That's what she did. And that's when the detective said, y'all didn't see her put that bag up there in the closet? Because she moved things from where it was.
Photos, which is acceptable.
So you moved evidence in the crime scene.
No, sir, I did not move evidence in a crime scene. We actually, again, you know how this works. We took all over photos of everything in place. Then, once we were finished with that area and we needed to do the measurements, we moved the stool after we had documented.
Yeah, when y'all took the measurement.
So yes, we moved the stool after we were finished with that area to document.
Right.
Have you seen one of the all-over photographs that shows that black bag hanging on the back of the door?
I haven't seen the all over photo, no, sir.
So maybe you didn't capture that?
I didn't take the picture, sir.
You say
The members of the Knoxville Police Department. I did not take the photographs.
Have you seen a photograph of the overall crime scene? Is that there?
I have seen the photos of the crime scene.
She moved the evidence. Come on, y'all. Let's get somewhere in this case. I don't trust her for some reason.
You and Riddle both were making a lot of assumptions about what Miss Howington was telling you, right?
No, I wasn't making assumptions. It wasn't lining up with the evidence.
Yeah, you said that many times in the interview. It's not lining up. There should be a shell casing. There's no shell casing. It's not lining up. There should be a bullet through the couch and into the floor. There's no bullet from the couch into the floor. It's not lining up because you didn't know where all that stuff was. Somebody in the department did that.
No, sir. Nobody.
They'd already found the gun outside. Shell casing stuck in it.
The gun was found outside, but again, like I said, we didn't find it in the house. And usually when there's a shooting, typically shell casing ejects, and it's found in that area.
We didn't find it in the house. You weren't at the house.
I was initially at the house, and then I left, sir.
The techs were there.
Yeah, then I was at the residence. I left and went to the hospital, and the crime scene techs stayed at the scene. Usually,
I'm sorry.
when we're on murder scenes, we direct the crime techs what to do. That's why Investigator Riddle stayed, because he's the lead detective. It's his scene. He's going to direct the crime scene techs. When I was there with him and we looked, like I just explained, usually when a semi-automatic weapon is fired, it's going to eject the casing. That casing is usually not far from where the gun was fired. We looked in the vicinity in that room. We didn't find it. So to us, there's no shell casing like there usually should be. That's why I said we can't find the shell casing.
See, what she do with the shell casing?
Investigator Riddle testified that you got to be careful of those shell casings because they're scary little things. They'll go all over the place.
What she do with them?
You say it should be right there where it goes.
I didn't say it should be near. I said the vicinity. They usually shoot out to the right, and because it's metal, it can bounce and move, but being that it's carpet, there's small chance of that happening. Also, It could be kicked by people entering the residence. We took that into consideration. We looked in the other rooms. There's still no shell casing.
So all these things you didn't know yet, where the shell casing was, where the bullet was.
No, sir.
You didn't know that.
No, sir.
She don't move them shell casing,
Story wasn't lining up.
allegedly.
She didn't know. Where's the bullet? Where's the shell casing? Right?
Yeah, that's once we found out where it was.
No, you didn't find out where the bullet was for quite some time. Right?
That's,
You
well,
know,
no,
at the garage.
you just asked me about the shell casing. We found out where the shell casing was that night. And so then, now it's not lining up. You just said that the shell casing was in, no, you just said it was in,
Once you found the gun, you knew where the shell casing was. It was in the gun.
and that's what I just said to you, sir. We found that night, because you asked about the shell casing, and once we were informed that the shell casing was in the gun, which was found outside the house,
Right.
that's more evidence that's not lining up with her story and the broken cell phone and all
That's
the other things
right.
that we're getting from her.
She told you a lot of guns outside the house.
She gave us a reason to why it was outside the house, and she gave us a couple reasons.
You made sure she knew you had kids.
We both told her we had kids, sir.
He told her he has kids. Right? And any of your kids,
Yeah, like the police is the criminal.
No, sir.
He's not.
your mentality have been like,
Your Honor, objection, the witness's state of mind is not relevant.
they used that in the interview, Judge. We both got kids.
Last question. Ask him, answer that, and then move
I
on.
can't speak to that because I've never been in that situation. But I can tell you, I have dealt with several parents in that situation, and their mindset is totally different from what Miss Howington's was that night.
How many of them had PTSD?
Sir, I'm not a clinical technician. I can't tell you, and people don't walk around with a vest on that says I have PTSD, so I don't know. I just know that their actions upon finding out that their child was dead or murdered
Don't lose it,
was
detective.
vastly, drastically different from Miss Howington's.
You knew she had PTSD. She told
No, sir, I didn't know she had PTSD. Where is that in the interview that she says I have PTSD? You keep making these. You keep saying I know these things, and I would like for you to show me because if I have PTSD came up, let me see that. I don't remember. I remember her saying I was raped that you just showed me, and then maybe it's something like nervous. I remember her saying that because I said that's not us.
you were working with Investigator Riddle, right?
Yes, sir.
He's telling you what he's finding in the investigation, right?
What specific time are you talking about now? Are you talking about in the interview, or are you talking about some other time?
Let me ask you.
Yeah. First of all, I'm gonna object because he's asking him to review notes that this witness didn't write.
They're working as a team. She tells him, we've already seen the video, the jury's seen the video, when in 2 minutes and 40 seconds at the interview at the house, she tells him.
What is, I mean, let me see the notes.
And maybe approach her.
That's right. Bring him up there. Hang in there, Detective B. Act like a detective now. Don't let him bring you out of your zone. I don't trust her. You know what she did to her daughter, allegedly.
Okay. Might ask you about Riddle's notes. Well, I ask you to look at page 3 of the transcript. I ask you to read that highlighted paragraph to yourself. Did you read that?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall that being said?
Now that you showed me, I guess she did say it.
What she said to you was, I don't know if you were saying about cheating somebody there, right? I really don't talk to anybody. Ever since I got raped by a police officer, I really distanced myself from everybody. And I made my life just about my kids. because I got diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. That's what she told you on page 3 of this interview, into your interview with the ABD. Right away, right?
Correct.
So you said you talked to all kinds of people. Do they all react the same way? Bad news, to death and bad.
They usually have some kind of reaction that is, like I said, different from how Miss Howington was reacting.
She didn't give you the old Lord Jesus.
No, sir.
You don't know it, and she told you she stayed quiet and by herself because of PTSD, right?
This is my reaction. Me seeing her reaction to her child being dead was before that. That was at the hospital. And at the hospital, there was no reaction.
Do you reckon she had PTSD when she was at the hospital?
She hadn't made it aware to me or Investigator Riddle or any officer that I knew of at that point.
Ding, 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 ding. She told him at the scene.
She didn't tell me at the scene. Because again, like I told you, I was at the scene for a minute. I never saw her, and then I went to the hospital.
So is your testimony as an experienced former homicide detective that everyone reacts at least more excited or agitated than Miss Howard?
That has been my experience.
You have no idea whether her PTSD would have any effect on her, how she reacts emotionally, do you?
No, sir, I do not.
But you know she was medicated, don't you?
No, sir, I don't know if she was
For the love
medicated.
of God, you went through her purse and pulled each bottle out and went through it with her. What's this for? What's this for? Right?
I did.
And she said it was all PTSD.
I don't know if she took, I never asked her if she took it. I just asked what it was for. So I can't tell you for a fact if she was medicated or not.
You saw a whole bunch of pill bottles in that purse, didn't you? You were really amazed by it.
There were several pill bottles in that purse.
And you didn't ask, are you taking any of these right now?
No, sir.
But you did get interested in one of them, right?
Correct.
You asked her what it was for, and she said, what?
Shingles.
Remember that?
Yeah, I watched the, yeah, I remember that.
And then you said, and you let me hug on you?
Correct.
What was she supposed to do? Armed investigator, ward law, fight you off?
If I've had people attempt to hug me before, and if I don't want to be hugged, I either say, don't hug me, or I don't reciprocate and put my arm around them. So if she'd have done either of those, I would have think that would have indicated I don't want to be hugged. But again, like we saw in the video, she reciprocated the hug, sir.
And those people were trying to hug you, you didn't want to be hugged. You locked in there.
I wouldn't have never hugged her, like I said earlier.
People that have tried to hug me before.
I would have never hugged her.
You thought that was okay with her.
Again, sir,
Did you ask her?
she was a grieving mother.
All right, y'all, let me skip this a little bit because this attorney is not getting nowhere to me.
You let me hug on
We in the same spot. Let's move on.
That's we're not going there.
Judge, if you're not going to allow him to say that the 63-second visit at the house is a drug transaction, for him to testify that drug transactions happen in a shorter period of time, what else would a jury expect to think about that?
Are you wanting me to have him say that?
No,
this is a drug
it's
transaction?
nonsense, and I think they say everything's admissible, but what they can say is someone goes in and they're in there for 63 seconds. Where is there any evidence that that was a drug transaction? And you're not going to let him say it, so why let him say, well, 63 seconds could be a drug transaction?
I'm going to allow it. You can argue that it wasn't. She can argue that it was. I think it's fair game, given the fact what she was trying to do earlier that evening with Mr. Key. All right, ready to bring the jury in? Line the jury up.
Okay, wait, let me take this back a little bit. Let me see who it is on this thing. Okay, let's
Is that the phone up here? That
Yes.
yeah, let's see who this is.
raise your right hand. Solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. Have a seat.
Can you state your name and spell your name for the record, please?
Terry, Terry, Pate, Pate,
And where are you currently employed?
the Knoxville Police Department,
What's your current assignment?
in the organized crime unit,
And how long have you been with the organized crime unit?
since 2016.
And what does the organized crime unit do?
We investigate narcotic offenses, weapon offenses, vice crimes, things of that nature.
And is that what your employment was on September the 14th of 2019?
I was actually assigned to the Appalachian Haida Overdose Task Force, which
Okay.
is a task force inside of the organized crime unit.
Okay, so it's a specific task.
Applied in 2019.
Yes.
And how long had you been with HIDA at that point?
We transitioned over from CERT in 2016. I was placed on a gang task force within organized crime unit at that time, and then shortly thereafter moved to the HIDA overdose drug task force.
Investigator Pate, have you been involved throughout your career with investigations involving narcotics?
I have.
And when did you start with the Knoxville Police Department?
I started with the Knoxville Police Department in 1999.
And how long have you been on specialized task forces dealing with narcotics investigations?
Out of all of those years, I spent about 3.5 years on patrol. The other were for drug-related offenses.
Okay. I am going to hand you a number of documents and ask if you recognize them. Well, first let me ask you this. This item right here in front of you that is listed as Exhibit 48, do you recognize that? You can open it and look at it if you want to.
Yes,
What is that?
it is a iPhone 6 that I had to rebuild.
Okay. And so the iPhone 6, this Exhibit 48, is that the iPhone 6 that has to do with the Robert Howington case?
It is.
And who asked you to rebuild this phone?
I was given that phone by Investigator Wardlaw.
What all did you have to do to rebuild the phone? Explain that to the court, please.
I had to essentially finish taking it apart. When I did that, I noticed there was damage to the casing or the frame of the phone. Also, there was standing water on the phone and inside of the components of the phone. I had to replace the front assembly and digitizer for the cell phone, as well as the battery for it.
Why don't we, the part that may be objectionable, I mean, none of this is, he's gonna be allowed to testify all this. What is it that you're asking the court to rule upon before we?
So as part, did you do an extraction on this phone?
I did.
And as part of the extraction that you did on the phone, did you find items that were of interest?
Yes.
Let me hand you these 6 documents and ask you, do you recognize those 6 documents?
I do.
And what are those 6 documents?
It is a list of the search history.
Is it the entire search history of the defendant's phone?
I don't believe it's the entire search history.
But it's portions that were relevant to this case, is that correct?
Yes.
I wonder if we could make this exhibit, I think we're at 49.
ID only 49.
Hand you exhibit 49, and can you explain to the jury what a search history is? Or, excuse me, explain to the judge what a search history is.
I know what search history is.
Okay. Can you tell the judge the items of interest in this particular search history that are printed there in front of you in that exhibit?
Yes, there's several searches, one of which was just RP 15.
Does that mean anything to you?
Yes, it is
What would that mean?
it's the markings on a oxycodone pill. It's an oval white pill, and of course, the oxycodone is used to treat chronic pain. June 27th, 2019.
What about the one on the first page? What does that say?
Buspirone, 7.5 pitchers.
Okay. And is that also a drug?
Yes.
Can we go to the third page? Oh, what's the date on the first one?
It is June the 12th of 2019.
Could you go to
12 and 19, is this an actual photograph, or just a search?
It's just a list of the searches that were conducted on the device.
So the actual search is, let's bring 7.5 pictures. Is that what it
Yes.
says?
Could you go to the third page? What is the highlighted search on the third page?
How much do the orange Opanas cost?
And what's the date on how much did the orange Opanas cost?
8/3 of 19.
Does that, orange Opanas, does that mean anything to you as a drug investigator?
Yes, it's.
Shout out to Laura and Karan
medication use
for
those used to
taking their
treat
day out to
It's oxymorphone.
record this
Again, it's
trial
controlled
for us.
substance. 8/3 of 19.
Could you go to the next page? Search on that page.
Is Buzzbar a benzo? And that's the brand name of the first Buzzbarone, Brony 7.5 pictures. It's the brand name of that.
And the search was, is that a benzo? Do you
This
know
is
what benzo
Robert
is?
I do
Hollington,
it is not.
the mother who accused of killing her
What is a benzo?
daughter.
It's a benzodiazepine.
What is that?
It's it would treat anxiety and it is controlled.
Low level, Xanax, value, something like that.
Yes.
Okay.
What's the
Good.
date on that?
8/4 of 19.
Go to the next page. What's the search?
Does Buzzbar show up on drug test?
What's the date of that?
8/26 of 2019.
Is there any other searches in that package? Last page.
How long does alprazolam show up in hair follicle drug test?
What's the date on that?
8/27 of 2019.
And the specific drug reference in that you said was alprazolam?
Yes,
Is that a controlled substance?
it is.
In the course of looking through the scientific phone, did you also find pictures that were of him?
Yes.
What was the date of that last search? The one about alprazolam?
8/27/19.
Okay. All right, go ahead. General McDermott asked you about photographs.
Yes, there are a couple of photographs.
Okay, let me hand you this packet of information and ask, does that look familiar?
Yes.
What is that?
It is a photograph, appears to be like a coffee table or some sort of table. And on that appears to be multiple plastic baggies, some of which contain a green leafy substance, which to me looks like marijuana.
Okay, and that particular photo, is that a photo that you have a date for?
Yes, 5/22 of 2019.
Okay, if you could go to the next photo. Oh, wait, this goes on this
Okay.
one.
Yeah. It's essentially, it's more of a close-up of the first photo, but 5/22 of 2019 is the date on that as well.
And what's in the second set of photos? Second photo, this one.
It appears to be the plastic bags and a plastic bag containing a green leafy substance. And in the first photo, there appears to be a digital scale
Why would a
setting,
digital scale be significant to you?
weighing out narcotics, especially if it's laying next to narcotics.
And if you could hand me the next set of pictures.
So is this about narcotics?
Appears to be a screen capture of marijuana.
And what's the date on that?
5/21 of 2019.
And if we could make these collect.
How does what Mr. Oliver asserted in a text message, how is that not hearsay?
So, Your Honor, the reason that I think that this is relevant admissible evidence is twofold. First, the text exchange. Do you want me to talk about this first, or do you want me
Let's
to talk
talk
about
about the text exchange.
Okay, so for the text exchange, we know in this case that the defendant tried to destroy her phone.
That's right.
So her motive for destroying the phone is certainly something that's absolutely relevant in this case. She told the detectives at one point it is because there's drug information in the phone or something of that nature, but I think it's also relevant that in this particular phone that she is trying to destroy, there is a conversation that she's having with Antoine where he's talking about how she's leaving the gun out in the room, and she knows that that text is in there. The fact that she wants to destroy this phone that has a text message in it where somebody has said to her, you leave guns out, and that that's messed up, is something that goes to her state of mind, her consciousness of wrongdoing, and her motive for wanting to get rid of this phone. I think it's absolutely relevant in this case. She knows that that's in her phone, and that's something that she is trying to get rid of so that the police don't see that, Your Honor. We believe that it's relevant and admissible.
Why is Mr. Oliver?
I know we've not made a decision about whether he's going to testify or not. Really,
You understand he's making an assertion about this
That's
gun
right.
that she doesn't acknowledge. Let me finish.
sorry.
He's making an assertion about the gun, which is not subject to cross-examination.
That's right.
She
This
said,
isn't an admission that she's making, it's an assertion that he's making. I've observed this. If he texted her and said, I witnessed you kill Destiny, would that be admissible?
if she then tried to destroy the phone that had the text message in it that said, I saw you kill Destiny, and she tried to get rid of that phone, absolutely it would, Your Honor. And not only that, she says back, trust me, I had my shit together till your ass came along. I think that that's a tacit admission in this case, that she's acknowledging some wrongdoing.
The only way this is going to come close to coming in is if you can convince me that there's a tacit admission here. I don't see how else I can admit this.
She says, trust me, I had my shit together till your ass came along. That's her words right there in the very last text message.
All right, on the text messages on Mr. Lowe, we're going to deal with each of these piecemeal. So
Right.
talk to me about the text message.
So in the text message, the chain in which he says something about the nightstand is 353. And then he says, is that the same day, I think? Same day at 356, 2 minutes later, the fourth one down on the front page. You better get your shit together. So in between that are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 messages that say nothing about, there's no tacit admission from her, 6 messages between the nightstand text and the get your shit together text. So how, I don't know how the state's saying I had my shit together till you showed up, which is another 3 minutes later in response to a different text.
She thinks she slick, got rid of the phone.
I'm saying there is no tacit admission. And this man's been sitting outside this courtroom for a week. And we're sitting here talking about whether or not Mr. Pate's going to get to say what Antoine Oliver says, who has been described, Mr. Riddle called him a nutcase in the interview, been described as a horrible domestic abuser. And we're going to let him sit out in the hallway and let Mr. Pate, I don't know, ventriloquize him into the courtroom, and it
Make
makes
legal arguments. I don't.
Judge, it is a legal argument. The man who made the statement is sitting out there upstairs by the coffee shop. Last I saw him 20 minutes ago. He's been here all week. Why are we asking to have another witness read his texts?
And then he could read his own
If
text.
testify, subject himself to cross-examination, I say, come on. But this is not the witness. I can't cross-examine this witness about those texts.
That's right.
Here's the problem, General. Given what the subject matter of this is, even if I give them a curative instruction, even if I buy your argument that this goes to her state of mind about trying to destroy that phone, I have to instruct them that the only reason they can consider that is because of her state of mind. And this may have been the fact that this assertion, true or not, was made in the phone was why she was destroying it. I'm very concerned that under 403 that if I have to do the balancing test the law requires me to do, that we don't get there. Now, if you want to put Mr. Oliver on, then that's a different different can of worms that we're dealing
Put
with. And we're
Antoine
dealing with,
on.
her conduct prior in time to the night of September the 14th, 2019, and this may be corroborative proof of his assertion that he saw a gun on her nightstand. But that's your call. But I'm not comfortable putting this in this fashion because
I just don't understand. My thing is with this, y'all. Why can't Antoine take the stand? Because he the one that being accused of being the shooter. Why don't Antoine take the stand? Nobody should be talking in Antoine's spot but Antoine. What's the problem here?
this is central to the issue in this case, and it's a statement that he can't cross-examine. It's rank hearsay. And I don't see this, I agree if she had made an immediate response back, but Mr. Whalen correctly points out there are multiple other things he says before her first response back. As I said yesterday, I think this record is clean at this point. I don't want to build error into it.
Will the court consider, if the defendant takes the stand, us addressing this issue again?
That may be fair game if she takes the stand.
Thank you, Your Honor.
But if she takes the stand, the hearsay will be admissible.
Mr. Whalen, we're not there yet.
Well,
I've ruled that for purposes of the state's case in chief, this is not coming in.
Thank you, Your Honor. Does the court want to hear the argument as to her searches?
All right, make your argument on that.
Your Honor, I think that the search history that we have here is significant and important. The reason being is because the defense has made quite a big deal in their cross-examination about her having all this medication, her having PTSD, and here we have the medication in some of these instances that she's specifically addressing when they're going through her medication. In that interview room, she talks about buspirone, and here she's doing things that are indicative of selling that exact same medication.
That's right.
She's made a big deal about how she has PTSD, and I think the fact that she is selling the medication that she supposedly needs for PTSD is
She is selling her medication.
made relevant in this case.
Where do those searches tell me she's selling that medication?
Well, Your Honor, if she is looking up whether it will show in a drug screen, I think the reasonable thing for anybody to believe in that case, if she's asking if it's going to be in a drug screen, if she has a legal prescription for that particular narcotic, it's not going to be important or significant to her whether or not that shows up in a drug screen. The reason she's looking...
Is it not just as reasonable that she could be illicitly taking it and worried about it showing up in her drug?
That could be it too, Your Honor, but I think that it's also reasonable given the other testimony that we've heard in this case that she's selling these narcotics. And I think that's something that when the defense stands up and tries to paint this picture of this person that's on all these medications and has all these issues,
That's
they should
right.
be allowed to say, well, it appears that this person is also selling that medication as well. I think that that's fair.
Okay, we all want to be fair, but I have to follow the rules of evidence promulgated by the...
I'm talking about the balancing test that the court has to do to determine if this outweighs, Your Honor, and that's what I'm saying. I think it's fair game when the defense has made a big deal in this case about all the medication she's on to also point out that there are things in here that are indicative of her selling her medication.
I have allowed the state to introduce evidence around the time frame because I think it is highly probative and it gives context to what the conversation she was having with Mr. Key that night, that he was attempting and had in fact bought pills from her in the past. That these searches, to me, are just as easily explainable that she's trying to figure out what she can take and what she can get as they are that she's selling.
That's her game, Your Honor.
Okay.
That's her game.
yes, sir, just briefly. She is prescribed this drug. Sometimes people, she's asking about...
She can still sell it.
Photo of the pill. If you found a pill and you don't, it's sitting loose, you might want to know what it is. I don't think there's anything in here that suggests sales in any way. And I don't
Here's
think
the way I look at it, folks. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but this is just the way I look at it. If she were under indictment for aggravated child neglect and felony murder and perpetration of aggravated child neglect, and her daughter had died from an overdose, and there was evidence of her illicit drug use before and during the period of time in question, I think it's highly probative. But that's not what she's indicted for, and that's not what the proof in this case is about. She is accused of engaging in aggravated child neglect, which resulted in her child's death because her child was shot and killed. I have allowed the state to put in evidence through Mr. Key that he was attempting to buy pills from her that night, that he had bought pills from her in the past. I'm going to permit Detective Pate as a drug investigation expert, to opine about the length of time that a typical drug transaction takes place, because that's directly material, because we have an individual showing up who's there for 1 minute and who leaves the next, and I will allow him to opine that in drug transactions, many times firearms are present. That's as far as we're going with that. I just don't see this as adding anything more to the equation. So I'm going, unless it's made material in some other way, at this juncture, I'm going to say we're not going to get into
Okay,
it.
and the same thing with the pictures of the drugs on the table that's in the house that we've been talking about this whole entire time.
Once again, we're talking about marijuana that was seen in the house, some 5 months before the homicide. Do you want to try this case, Thomas?
Your Honor, I think the state's position is that this is relevant admissible evidence. I understand the court's ruling, but that's what I'm asking the court to allow us to do, and I understand the court's ruling.
If she, through cross-examination or testimony elicited in her case in chief, makes it relevant, we will reconsider the issue. At this juncture, I don't think we need to go there. I think you're building record error in where you don't have it.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody bring the jury back. Tell me who we've got left. We've got Investigator Pate.
And then I have the medical examiner. You said that I may ask him about the length of drug transactions and also firearms are frequently present.
Yes, and based on his training experience, he's not going to opine on this particular case that this was a drug transaction, but I will allow him to testify that based on his training experience, that drug transactions are typically this length. And he can talk about that and the fact that in his experience there have been firearms present oftentimes in drug transactions. There's no question this was a firearm here, but as far as how the firearm was utilized, we're not going there.
Judge, if you're not going to allow him to say that the 63-second visit at the house is a drug transaction, for him to testify that drug transactions happen in a shorter period of time, what else would a jury expect to be both think about that?
Are you wanting me to have him say that
No,
this was a drug transaction?
it's nonsense, and I think they say everything's admissible, but what they can say is someone goes in and they're in there for 63 seconds. Where is there any evidence that that was a drug transaction? And you're not going to let him say it, so why let him say, well, 63 seconds could be a drug transaction?
I'm going to allow it. You can argue that it wasn't. She can argue that it was. I think it's fair game.
That's right.
What she was trying to do earlier that evening with Mr. Key. All right, ready to bring the jury in? Line the jury up.
She know what she was doing. She know exactly what she was doing. I don't think she meant for that happen to her daughter, but so happened that her daughter got in between the fire cross. That's what happened. I don't think she was intended to shoot her daughter. I believe her daughter got in the middle of it. And like her Antoine said, she should have put that gun up in the closet. And she didn't have it up in the closet. She had it behind the door. Then she put it up in the closet when the detective was there. She know what she did wrong. Come on, y'all. I hope we got a good jury here. And then she knew what she was doing when she went in the restroom and put that cell phone in that toilet. She know good well that phone wasn't going to work anymore. She thinks she's smart. And I hope she get caught. Because a 5-year-old didn't ask for that to happen to her.
Waive the call for the state. For the defense.
If you could introduce yourself to the jury, please.
I'm Investigator Terry Pate with the Knoxville Police Department.
For the record, you were sworn a few minutes ago, is that correct?
Yes,
Investigator
Your
Pate?
Honor.
Okay. And can you spell your first and last name for our court reporter, please?
Terry, Terry, Pate, Pate.
I heard you say you work for the Knoxville Police Department.
Yes,
How long have you been employed with the Knoxville Police Department?
since 2019.
Since 2019?
Yes.
And what is your current assignment?
I'm sorry, 1999, sorry.
I thought that was a little, okay, since 1998, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And what's your current assignment?
I'm assigned to the organized crime unit.
And can you explain briefly to the jury what the organized crime unit is?
We are charged with addressing narcotics investigations, vice crimes, and we assist other units within the police department.
Okay. And how long have you been with the organized crime unit?
I've been there since 2016.
Prior to 2016, were you with the repeat offenders investigative unit?
Yes.
And when did that start?
2007.
Okay. And prior to that, where were you assigned?
In 2002 to 2003, I was assigned to a special investigative team that was on patrol, but in plain vehicles. In 2001 and 2002, I was assigned to as a staff officer in the West District Captain's Office. And then 2003 to 2006, I was assigned to patrol.
So have you been mostly with units that have to deal with narcotics?
Yes,
Okay. So do you do undercover investigations dealing with narcotics for the most part?
I have. I'm involved in those.
Okay. And when you say involved, can you just briefly explain to the jury what you mean by a narcotics investigation?
So depending on the type of narcotics investigation we do, sometimes we utilize a confidential informant. That means that you're doing surveillance or handling the confidential informant, or in some cases I'll be used in an undercover capacity to purchase narcotics.
So when you say confidential informant or that you're being used in the undercover capacity, do you actually go and purchase narcotics from people or have
Yes.
someone else go do that on behalf of the police? Is that what
Yes.
you're talking about?
If we use a confidential informant, we use them and we do surveillance while we go or while they go and purchase the narcotics. If it's undercover capacity, then I would be the one that goes in and purchases the narcotics.
And so in the course of your employment with the Knoxville Police Department,
We're also calling that also the feds office,
did you also look at the phone and look at incoming and outgoing calls after 8:52:42 p.m.?
Yes,
Did you prepare a document with those items?
I did.
Can you best and ask you to recognize this document?
Yes.
What is that document?
It's a timeline of phone calls and text messages incoming and outgoing.
At the phone calls incoming and outgoing at 8:52 p.m. on September 14th, 2019. Is that correct?
Yes.
You'll just read down to the jury and then we can make that the next exhibit.
So, starting here. 8:52:42 p.m. There's an unanswered incoming call from Joe. 8:53 p.m. outgoing call to 911 has a duration of 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
So that 911 call you said was at 8:53:00 p.m.
Yes.
And you said it lasted for 3 minutes and 20 seconds?
Yes.
Go ahead.
At 8:56:42 p.m., there's an outgoing call to Callie at 865-830-2232. It was 35 seconds in duration.
Now, when you say Callie, is that the name that the person that has the phone has listed? That's what they have labeled the number as?
Yes.
Go ahead.
8:59:04 p.m. unanswered incoming call from Cali, 865-830-2232. At 9 p.m. and 37 seconds, unanswered incoming call from Cali, 865-830-2232. 9:03 p.m., outgoing call to TAB, 865-740-1383. That was TAB, T-A-B. That's the contacts label in the device. That was 31 seconds in duration.
So that call connected.
To something. I don't know if there was a conversation, but 9:04:38 p.m., outgoing call to TAB once again. The same number, 31 seconds in duration. 9:05:14 p.m., outgoing call to TAB. Same number, 30 seconds in duration. 9:05:59 p.m., outgoing call to Melissa, 865-679-1596, 42 seconds in duration. 9:06:27 p.m., incoming text from TAB, 865-740-1383. The text read, "I'm driving mom to Walmart, honey. She won't let her the phone." 9:06:35 p.m., outgoing call to AJ, 423-3917, 6 seconds in duration. 9:13:03 p.m., outgoing call to Cali, 865-830-2232, 1 minute and 21 seconds in duration. 9:19:07 p.m., outgoing call to Cali, the same number, 56 seconds in duration. 9:21:43 p.m., outgoing text to TAB at 865-740-1383. "I just talked to your mom. Destiny got shot." 9:22:10 p.m., outgoing text to TAB at 865-740-1383. "I need you to do me a favor ASAP." 9:23:08 p.m., outgoing text to Cali, 865-830-2232. "I need you to get that gun, Cali, FR ASAP."
Was that the text message that we were looking at earlier?
Yes. 9:23:21 p.m., text to Cali, same number. It's on the side by the air conditioner. 9:23:26 p.m., outgoing text to Cali, same number, in the bush. 9:24:16 p.m., outgoing text to Cali, same number. "My phone is about to die. They're taking me to UT." 9:26:50 p.m., outgoing call to Joe, 865-208-2836, 35 seconds in duration. 9:28:02 p.m., outgoing call to Cali at 865-830-2232, 1 minute and 34 seconds in duration. 9:31:29 p.m., outgoing call to Joe 2, 865-888-1690, 51 seconds in duration.
Okay, and the way that you got this particular list, how did you get this particular list of ingoing and outgoing calls and text messages?
Within the extraction I performed on this device, there's a way that you can have that put in a timeline. So I went through that and marked everything as it happened prior to the 911 call to the last incoming or outgoing text or phone from the device.
Now, I noticed that Callie's text message is in this chain, is that correct? The ones
Yes.
that you were just talking about, but Joe's are not. Do you have a reason for the jury why that is? Do you know why that would be?
Again, some things when we extract from the device, for some reason, it will not get certain things.
And so is that why you also took physical pictures of the conversation with Joe as well?
Yes.
We could make this the next example.
Marking files 54. 54.
So he got picture and text, which is a good thing.
How you doing, sir?
Good, you?
Doing good.
Investigator?
Investigator, it's fine.
Okay. I just want to give you your title, I'll make sure. We've known each other a long time now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. When did you get trained to fix phones?
The last training I went to, it was cut short because of COVID. And then trial and error, a lot of it.
Because I'm going to be calling you next time one of mine breaks. The frame was fragile. The frame of these phones are fragile.
Depending on which way you're
Yeah.
manipulating them.
Long ways, more fragile than cross.
No, more fragile long ways.
From end to end.
Yes.
Yeah. You can't try to fold it sideways, you're not going to.
Well, depending on what part of the frame you're talking about, if you can imagine a small rectangle box without a top or bottom. So if I try to fold it halfway, the side supports or the top and end supports would create resistance to that. If I'm trying to fold it in lengthwise, the side supports create resistance to that.
I think you were saying you could bend it and put it on the saddle.
If without the frame, it would very easily do that.
When did this phone get bent?
I can't say.
That screen looks pretty bad. Usually, when you're out there talking to folks on the street, like you do with drug users, right? You see some pretty bad phones.
I've seen some pretty bad phones.
Well, you were shocked, function.
Sometimes possibly.
You don't know when this one got bent.
I do not.
Now, you didn't have, your job at this point, outside of this courtroom, is as a drug investigator.
Yes, sir.
You didn't have any drug investigation going on, which is Howington's main.
There was no known drug investigations that I'm aware of.
I know if they were happening, you'd be aware of them.
I'm not sure.
Were there any illegal drugs found in this case?
I'm not aware of that.
So why did they have him there?
You said that, describe how short normal drug transactions are. That's kind of small time drug transactions, right? But big drug transactions might take a little more time.
I'm not sure. They're usually pretty quick.
Well, for you to make mistakes.
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you about the Bean case. You remember the Bean case?
Okay. I'm gonna skip it a little bit.
Prove anything to you. Mr. Whalen, you are recognized on behalf of the defense.
Thank you. Call Robin Howington.
Ms. Howington, come around, please.
Now here come Howington.
If you would come up to the witness stand before you take the witness stand, raise your right hand and be sworn.
This is the mother,
I
y'all.
swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth,
Robin.
and the truth, so help you God. Have a seat, adjust the microphone so that you can speak directly into it.
Howington, you're going to want your water.
Please, thank you.
The mother taking the stand, y'all.
Tilt that down. put the end up as well if you need to.
Tell the jury your name.
Robin Howington.
And you are the Robin Howington we've been talking about since Monday, right?
Yes, sir.
And how old a woman are you?
41.
And where were you born?
Bristol, Tennessee.
How long did you live in Bristol?
Till I was 14.
Pull it right up there to you.
Pull it up closer to you. There you go.
Okay, let's try that. So you lived in Bristol till you were 14.
Yes, sir.
And where did you move then?
Knoxville.
And have you lived in Knoxville since?
Yes, sir.
And do you have family here?
My son, Gavin.
Now, your mother lived in Bristol, right?
Yes.
And for a time she lived with you here.
Yes.
And she passed during this pendency of this case.
Yes.
Where, back in September of 2019, where were you living?
502 Balsam Drive.
And how long had you been there?
For about 4 years.
And who did you live with?
Destiny, Gavin, and myself.
And just to be clear, did Antoine Oliver ever live at that address?
No, sir.
Did he ever spend the night at that address?
No, sir.
Was he ever there when you alone that you know of?
No, sir.
Now, I want to talk to you a minute about your kids. Back in September of 2019, how many children did you have?
3.
And tell us their names.
Jeremiah, Destiny, Gavin.
And how old were they back in September 2019?
16, 5, and 2.
You say your oldest daughter's name is Jeremiah, did I hear that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
And how long did Jeremiah live with you?
Till he was 12.
And then who did he go to live with?
His father.
And do you have contact with him today?
Yes, sir.
And where is he living?
Norfolk, Virginia.
Why is he living in Norfolk, Virginia?
He's in the Navy.
I think you told me the other day he was entering into a special program.
Yes.
What was that?
The SEALs.
Didn't make you real happy, did it?
No.
No. Let's talk for a minute about Destiny. Who is her dad?
Antoine.
And how long were the two of you together?
Approximately 3 years.
And was it good in the beginning?
Yes.
Did you have plans?
Yes.
What were your plans with Antoine?
To raise Destiny and be a family.
And were you able to do that?
No, sir.
Why not?
Because when I got pregnant, he started to become very controlling and abusive, physically, mentally, and emotionally.
How did that affect you?
It was very traumatizing.
And did that have any effect on your friends and family?
Yes.
What was that?
Y'all, the young lady on the stand now is the mother of the 5-year-old, okay? She is testifying in behalf of her daughter and herself. So it's very important that we listen to her testimony. And Antoine is her daughter, the 5-year-old father. Antoine is the 5-year-old dad, okay? And they was gonna try to make a future together, but he became abusive, so they didn't.
Went through recycled cardboard to make sure there was no trash in it.
And At some point, were you asked to do another job rather than do the cardboard?
Yes.
What was that?
Clean the offices of the people that worked at the landfill because they were sick and not there.
And is that where this sexual assault took place?
Yes, sir.
And the person who did that was the person who drove the bus?
The officer that drove the bus and was supposed to be overseeing us.
And you asked to prosecute that case?
Yes, sir.
And to your knowledge, was that man ever charged with the rape?
I assume so, yes.
No, he ended up pleading to making a false statement to the police, to the TBI.
No, sir.
Did the prosecutors up there ever talk to you about that case, resolving it?
Resolving it, they wanted to not prosecute him and just give me money.
And there was eventually a civil lawsuit. It was not a civil lawsuit, it was a civil settlement.
Yes.
And you got paid, how much money total?
Like $13,000.
Okay. Let's go back for just a moment to the 12th of September of 2019. Where did you get the gun from on that day?
Out of the closet of the black bag.
And where did you put the gun afterwards?
I did not put the gun up. I gave it. Kelly picked it up after Antoine took it apart.
And he did what?
I assumed he put it up.
Okay. So, on September the 14th of 2019, did you know where that gun was?
No, sir.
Why did you tell them that it was in the black bag on the shelf in the closet?
Because that's where I kept it.
Now, I'm going to shift to September 14th of 2019. You called 911 at about 8:53, 54 in the evening. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What had you and the kids been doing that day?
We went to Chuck E. Cheese, a friend of mine's, and to the park.
And which park was that?
A park in Carnes.
And the police found that kind of odd that you would drive all the way to Carnes to the park rather than going to Fountain City, which is just a few blocks from your house, right?
Yes.
Well, why did you go all the way to Carnes to the park?
Because it was more modern. The things to play on at Fountain City Park were broken, and I didn't want my kids to get hurt.
So, you remember about what time you went to the park?
Around 7,
It takes how long to get there each way?
about 20 minutes.
And before leaving, had you done anything to start getting prepared for dinner?
Yes, I put a roast and carrots in the crock pot.
And what time did you get home?
About 8:40, 8:45.
And so, when you got home from the park, what did you do?
I brought the kids in because they were asleep
Did you bring them in together or separately?
separately.
Okay. And you parked your car and brought the kids in, right?
Yes,
And later you went back out to move the car.
yes.
When you came home, do you remember where you parked?
Yes, right in front of the sidewalk.
Is that where you normally park?
No,
Why not?
because the mailbox is there, so the mailman can get to the mailbox.
And that doesn't make the mailman happy, does it?
No,
So, was there a time at which you went back outside to the car?
yes,
What were you doing?
I was smoking because I do not smoke in my house around my kids.
And what else did you do?
I moved my car.
And you've seen that video from the neighbor's porch, right?
Yes, sir.
If you hadn't seen that video, would you have known any of those times?
No, sir.
And after you get the kids inside, there's a fellow that comes to your door, you're there for 63 seconds or so, right?
Yes.
Do you know who that was?
Yes.
And who was it? Don't tell me, don't say the last name because it's being broadcast, but if we need to, we can get that from.
His name was Jay.
Excuse me?
Jay.
Jay. And why was he there?
He was getting payment from where he tinted my windows on my car
When did he tint the windows?
the day before
And why didn't you pay him on Friday?
because there was bubbles in the tint and I wanted to know if they were going to go away or not.
And did he come and fix that, or he just,
No, I didn't pay him as much as he originally asked me to.
so after you got through dealing with Jay, what happened? What did you do?
I made sure the kids was okay and I went outside to smoke and move my car.
When you came back from moving the car, what did you do?
I was walking up to my house and it's a glass door and I seen a flash of light go off.
So somebody set your little girl up, huh?
And when I walked in, Gavin was screaming and crying. And the gun was on the ground.
So in other words, you trying to say that the children got hold to the gun?
There's some tissues up there in that box.
So
And did you see where Destiny was at that point?
Yes, she was on the couch.
And was she moving at all?
No,
Did you try to speak with her at all?
multiple times.
I'm sorry.
Multiple times.
Did she ever respond to you at that point?
No, sir.
that's sad, yeah. They just come in from having a good time.
What was going through your mind at that moment?
Couldn't fucking believe what was going on.
What was going on?
What did you do?
I got the gun and I took it outside
Why did you take it outside?
because I didn't want it to cause any more harm.
And if the video shows that that happens at about 8:53:53, 8:53:54, you're calling 911. Do you recall if you were doing those two things at the same time?
Yes, I was.
After you put the gun outside and came back in, what did you do?
I got a towel and put it on Destiny.
And when the officer, you saw the video when the first officer arrived, Officer Cummings, correct?
Yes, sir.
He testified that when he walked in the door, that that you were sitting on the couch near Destiny on the phone.
Yes, sir.
Who were you talking to on the phone at that moment?
The 911 dispatcher.
Do you remember what the last words you said to the 911 dispatcher were?
They're here.
So when he walked in, saw you on the phone, that's when you're telling 911 that they're here.
Correct.
Now, we're going to talk about that 911 call. When you made that 911 call, did you know Destiny had been shot?
Yeah.
And you told them that a black male, unknown black male, entered the door and fired a shot.
I don't believe that.
Shot Destiny.
Yes.
Somebody just,
Why did you tell that story to 911?
Because I didn't want Gavin to live with the fact that he had shot his sister for the rest of his life.
The story that an unidentified black male had shot from the door was not true, was it?
No, sir.
so your son shot your daughter.
And you remember the interview that you had that night later on, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember Mr. Riddle telling you that saying a black man shot your child was racist? He thought that was racist.
Yes, sir.
You're racist.
No, sir.
Callie is your boyfriend, right?
Yes.
What race is Callie?
African American.
What race is Destiny's father, Antoine?
The same.
And Gavin's dad, African American?
Yes, sir.
And let's be honest, your two children, what race are they?
They are biracial, white, and African American.
Mm.
Let's talk for a minute about this gun outside the house. You did put the gun outside the house, right?
Yes, sir.
Is the objection? Don't leave.
I'm skipping
I
it.
want to talk to him, and then I got something else.
Okay, then what happened?
So we can walk in.
Just, he brought the gun back in with him.
Yes.
So this gun that Callie gave you, how long have you had it?
No.
Okay, so after hearing that, would you agree with me that initially you said that Antoine came to your home, right?
After they suggested Antoine, yes, I went with that story.
Okay. Did they suggest to you that he leaves and comes back in with a gun?
That's what he said.
That's what you said, Miss Howington.
Okay.
Did you hear yourself say that? That you and Antoine are arguing? Did you hear yourself say that just now?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you hear yourself say that Antoine left and then came back in with a gun?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to the next thing you say. So then you change that story and say, actually, Antoine was there. You're still sticking with the fact that Antoine was there. But now you say that Gavin got a hold of the gun. Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
Do you recall saying that little 2-year-old Gavin had actually moved a stool from your living room area to your closet in your bedroom?
Yes.
I don't
Said that
believe
he
that.
might have even put on your high heels, right?
No.
That's not.
No.
Tender an objection.
The objection is she is making things up. That is not what the statement is.
All right. rephrase your question and refer to whatever portion of the interview that you want to impeach her with.
At one point, did you say that Gavin took the stool and moved it in front of your closet?
Yes.
Did you then say that he reached up and got the gun?
Yes.
When the officers asked you how that was possible, did you not say that he could have put on your high heels?
No, I said he got my high heels out of the closet.
When
I
you're
don't
talking
think
about
that
him
I said-
reaching the gun?
I wasn't sure how he got the gun. I just knew that he had got the gun.
The 2-year-old.
Okay. So again, you said after you change it to Antoine brings a gun in, you finally do admit that it was a gun in your home that shot and killed your daughter, right? And you said that Gavin climbed up in the closet and got it out of, well, you didn't say the black bag at first, did you?
I don't recall.
And then, according to your own statement at that time, you moved the stool before officers got there back into the living room, right?
I don't recall that either.
You don't recall telling officers that?
Ma'am, I was not in my right mind at that time. I had just seen my baby shoot my daughter.
Ms. Howington, have you been paying attention? Have you watched your interview here in court?
Somewhat, yes, but I don't want to remember any of this.
But you're gonna have to.
I'm gonna have to play it for you again if you can't remember.
That's fine.
Shoot, you have a 5-year-old daughter that deceased. You have to remember something.
I'm gonna go back for a second. We're gonna talk about the high heels. All right, Ms. Howington. You wouldn't mind. Just from here to here. Just read that to yourself, and when you're done, let me know. Page 43, I apologize.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now that you've read this, do you agree with me that when the officers asked you how Gavin got hold of the gun in the closet, you said he pulled, here you say a chair, is that correct? Is that what you said?
Yes.
And you said, in the closet because he puts on my high heels, correct?
Yes.
So in fact, you did say that.
I don't recall, but yes, ma'am, it's there.
Okay.
Yes, it was, I mean,
Again, right here, you tell the officers that you don't have a gun, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You tell the officers that it would surprise you if a gun was found outside your home, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But seeing as how you were the one that put the gun out there, that's not true, is it?
I was trying to protect my son. I was not in my right mind.
And at that time, you had also asked multiple people to go and pick up that gun, had you not?
Because I did not want it to come back to Gavin. Do you not understand what I'm saying, ma'am?
Ms. Howington, my question is, at that point in time, you had asked multiple people to come and pick up that gun that you put outside your home, had you not?
To protect Gavin.
Yes or no?
Yes or no? Had you told
Yes or
asked
no?
multiple people to get that gun from outside your house, yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
She may explain her answer, what she may
I think she has, but if you want to, again, explain your reasoning for doing so.
I was trying to protect my son, and nobody wants to accept that. What would you do?
Can I? Okay. All right. At that point in time, again, you had sent these text messages to multiple individuals, but you had, because your phone had been broken and run underwater, you didn't actually know whether or not those individuals were able to go get the gun, did you?
I have no idea, ma'am.
Well, Did you receive any correspondence back to your multiple text messages asking people to get the gun?
Not that I know of.
Okay. And so until officers confronted you with the fact that a gun was found outside your house, you didn't know whether it was there or whether somebody actually was able to go get it, did you?
Yes.
Is this the first gun you've ever had? I don't think I've asked this specific question. Is this the first firearm you ever had?
Yes, ma'am.
May we approach her?
She sure stop that crying quick.
To her, saying her name. I got a towel. I prayed.
Again, you've heard the testimony of the officers who were on scene, have you not?
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Howington, you didn't have a drop of blood on you. So how were you rendering aid to your daughter on scene?
I didn't really see a whole lot of blood on the front of her until we looked at that video or whatever the pictures. I didn't even know that there was that much blood on the couch.
You saw the front of her shirt, right? It had to be cut open?
Yes.
Saw that it had blood all over it, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, so it's
It didn't have blood all over it, no. It just was like right here. When it happened, that's what I seen.
So you said that you rendered aid while you were on the phone with 911, is that right?
Yes. I kept asking them, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And they
Was that
couldn't tell
before-
me.
Was that before or after, again, while you're on the phone with 911, is that before or after you're outside hiding the weapon that was just used to shoot your
I was
daughter?
on the phone with 911 when I took the gun outside.
Correct, but you also just testified that while you were on the phone with 911 that you were rendering aid to your daughter. So I'm just trying to figure out how it was that you were hiding a gun and rendering aid to your daughter.
I did not hide a gun, ma'am. I just threw it out there.
You threw it out there and you got a 2-year-old?
Again, that's not my question. My question is, at what point, when you're on the phone with 911 and you are taking the gun outside and throwing it in the bush, when did you render aid to your daughter?
Right after. I did not want the gun to be in there because I didn't want it to cause any more harm.
And you didn't want to get in trouble, did you?
No,
I'm sitting here right now, ma'am.
Again, that's not my question, Ms.
that's
Howard.
not what she
My
asked
question
you.
is, from your very first statement, you said that the reason you took that gun outside is because you didn't want to get in trouble, right?
If I get in trouble, I can't take care of Gavin.
Ms. Howington, my question is
Ask the
that
question.
what you said to officers that night? That the reason you took that gun outside is because you yourself did not want to get in
True.
trouble.
I assume so, yes.
Okay.
You said it.
Now, your attorney asked you about this. I won't go into it a lot, but I do want to ask. Now, you've talked a lot about this rape that occurred in Bristol, right?
It was in Kingsport.
In Kingsport. I apologize. I'm from Kingsport. I should have known better. Again, are you aware that the individual in that case was never charged with rape?
No, ma'am.
You're aware that that individual only pled guilty to filing a false police report?
I assume so. I didn't know that, no.
You also testified a minute ago that you had a failure to appear for a speeding ticket, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You wrote out a statement and gave it to TBI about what happened to you.
Yes.
You wrote that you had appeared from an assault charge from when you lived in Bristol, correct?
Not that I know of, no, ma'am.
You don't recall it? You don't recall writing that?
No, ma'am.
You don't recall saying that on February 20th, 2018, you went to court, you received...
Judge, I'm going to object. That's not her written statement. That's a TBI report else wrote.
I am happy to go get the handwritten one.
Okay, we're not trying to rape case, let's move along.
Okay. So it's your testimony though that it was a speeding ticket, not an assault charge.
Yes.
So you did 28 days of community service for a speeding ticket. Is that your testimony?
No, up there, you do 30 days of community service for any failure to appear.
Now, the officer that we're talking about, this was not, this was the person who was responsible for transporting people to and from community service, right?
And overseeing us.
Okay. Not a detective, anything like that. This was a person who is a transport officer.
I have no idea.
Talk about this PTSD. You saw in the video that you have a lot of medication that you take. What medications do you take for PTSD?
Prozac, Buciprone, hydroxyzine,
Gosh.
several others. It's just a
Yeah.
few of them.
Do you ever sell your medication?
No, ma'am?
I bet you
You heard
do.
the testimony, Mr. Joe Keys, right?
Yes, ma'am?
And you heard him testify that he had purchased Roxycodone, is that right?
Yes, ma'am?
And in fact, we see the text messages from your phone. You remember these text messages?
Yes, ma'am?
Do you remember that literally within the minutes leading up to the daughter being shot, he's texting you about pills, right?
He's texting me about pills.
Correct, right?
Mhm.
About pills.
That's what she said.
That's what it is, that none of the pills that you're selling to Joe Keys is on your prescription?
I have PTSD. They don't prescribe pain pills for PTSD.
But you had him anyway. But you had them to sell to him, even though you weren't prescribed them.
Yes.
Okay.
Same instruction from a couple days ago, ladies and gentlemen. The fact that Ms. Howington may or may not have done this is relevant for other purposes, but you may not assume that this is in some way suggestive of a propensity to break the law. Everybody understand the distinction? Go ahead.
I also want to ask you about one specific thing that you said to Mr. Key. Right. So 926, go to my house, the back way, get my gun out of the bush under the air conditioner. Dad shot Destiny, then come to UT, and I got you for free. Are you referring to pills at that point when you say I got you for free?
I assume so.
Would you agree that people who sell drugs sometimes have guns for protection?
If she knows.
If you know. Would you agree with that statement or disagree with that statement?
I don't know.
Woo. Think she guilty, y'all.
Talk to you about, I believe your attorney asked you about something that was said about a forensic interview. You recall your attorney asking you about that?
Yes, ma'am?
You said that you were scared because you weren't sure what that meant.
I mean, yeah.
So if the officer told you that it was literally just an interview, your testimony is that that scared you enough to not tell the truth that night.
You just showed me pictures of you guys or someone taking pictures of my son while he was crying. So
Not me.
yes, I don't think that was anything that he needed to go through.
And just to clarify, you didn't see pictures of me taking pictures of your son.
Someone,
And you're saying pictures of your son?
yes, the ones that you showed.
They were introduced to Officer Howington, with child help and had him standing against the
Okay,
wall.
you're not testifying. Ask the next question.
Your Honor, I'm talking about the interview that night. They made a big deal about the fact that that Officer Riddle mentioned a forensic interview. That interview didn't occur that night, so it can't be that.
Ask the next question.
Okay, so again, the fact that the officer said that your son would be interviewed scared you enough to where you had to lie that night.
I assume so, yes.
And you recall the officers telling you multiple times that they don't take 2-year-olds to jail, correct?
It didn't matter. Those pictures proved that no one really cared. They were taking pictures of my baby while he was crying.
What pictures are you referring
Yeah.
to?
What
How
picture?
am I supposed to get him?
Where was he when he was crying?
I don't know.
Well, why you say that? What are you talking about?
Now, which interview are you referring to?
I'm referring to the very first interview.
I suspect it's number 47.
I mean, what is she talking about? The mother. What are you talking about? They didn't take no picture of your son. 2-year-old. What are you talking about? Yeah, trying to get out of there. You're not gonna get out.
Are you talking about this picture
Yes.
where your son is just being measured against the wall?
He looks scared to death, and I'm pretty sure that he's crying.
What about this picture? Right thereafter.
Okay, but who's to say the time frame of that? The first one, he looks scared to death and crying.
It doesn't matter.
You're saying that your son looks terrified, right?
Yes.
So this just, the only thing is a tape measure just being held up beside of him, right? And for that reason, because your son got a tape measure held up beside of him, you said that you had to lie about what happened. You had to protect him from a tape measure.
No, that's not what I said, ma'am.
Okay. Are you aware that the reason that we had to take those photographs of Gavin is because you lied and said that he got the gun by
That's
using
right.
I did not lie.
Yes, you
You
did.
lie when you
I
said that Gavin.
assumed that Gavin got a stool because I was not sure how he got the gun to
You put it outside.
Sister.
Ma'am, do you recall saying that you saw the stool at your closet and moved it back before officers got
That's what
there?
you said.
Off, no.
That's what you said. I hope the jury listening to you.
Would that be a lie? If you said in your first interview that you saw the stool at your closet and that you moved it before officers got there to help Destiny, would that have been a lie?
I don't recall that.
Okay.
You don't lie until you don't know what you don't say.
Come back to that one as well. Find it. Come back to it.
Let me skip her because she making me upset.
Defendant or one for whom the defendant is criminally responsible.
And that's the pattern instruction.
I just wanted to make sure that's what you said.
I didn't put that in there. You want that in there?
Yes.
That the defendant, this will be one that the defendant or one for whom the defendant is criminally responsible. Okay. Mr. Whalen, I think we start first with the proposition that, what is it, TCA 40-18-110, the lesser included offense statute specifically states that second-degree murder is a lesser included offense of first-degree murder, which would include felony murder. But the court has to find that there are facts within the record which would meet the elements of second-degree murder. Are you asking the court to charge second-degree murder? No. All right. I think arguably you could get there, but I think the cleaner way to do this is to go felony murder, reckless homicide, and criminally negligent homicide. State agree?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so
The charge count.
charge count, felony murder, next lesser will be reckless homicide, the next lesser is criminally negligent homicide. And I read a case a couple nights ago that reckless homicide is in fact a lesser included offense of felony murder and the perpetration of aggravated child neglect. Count 2, aggravated child neglect by serious bodily injury. My first impression was that reckless aggravated assault would be a lesser included offense, but I'm not sure that it's going to be. Once again, I cheated and read a little bit of law on that. What's the state's position on what lesser included offenses would be appropriate for count 2?
I think assault is the next lesser included for count 2. Arguably child neglect, but I think for the child neglect to be the next lesser included, they would have to find that she was over 8 years of age, and there's no way factually she's.
No, I mean, to make it child neglect as opposed to aggravated child neglect, the only would be that she's less than 18, but more than 8, and that's just not a fact in dispute.
That's why I said I think it's just as
That woman right here. Okay, me a headache.
It's not assault. I mean,
I don't think there is a lesser included.
It's sad that that 5-year-old not here with us today due to the negligence of a parent. And then she lied about the gun, putting the gun outside.
All right, what's your position, Mr. Whalen, on what lesser included offenses should be contained within count 2?
I suspect assault doesn't apply because that's an intentional act and it's a negligent act. So I don't think there is.
Well, but the conduct for aggravated child neglect, the conduct must be knowing. The negligent act, it's kind of an oxymoron. But
That's right.
the conduct the defendant has to be aware of his or her conduct, which then negligently results in adversely affecting the child's health or welfare.
Right.
Count 2, the pattern instruction. The defendant knowingly neglected the child so as to adversely affect the child's health and welfare. I think we need to specify that it's destiny, because you've got 2 children. Right, but I want the instructions.
So you're saying knowingly neglected a child, destiny.
Well, hold on, let's go back in the first count.
Neglect, they got to be there.
Destiny Oliver.
That's the 5-year-old, y'all.
Rather than saying unlawfully killed the alleged victim, say unlawfully killed Destiny Oliver.
Sad.
Same thing on each lesser, rather than saying killed the alleged victim, say killed Destiny Oliver.
So for aggravated child neglect, neglected Destiny Oliver, is that what we're saying?
Yes, because we have 2 children that have been the topic of testimony.
Child and put in Destiny.
Correct. That the defendant knowingly neglected I'm gonna say a child, comma, Destiny Oliver, comma, so as to adversely affect the child's health and welfare.
Mm.
Yes or no, Mr. Whalen, on reckless aggravated assault? I'm not sure that, I think I read a case that's not. The distinction is to commit an assault, you have to, and it sounds, I don't know how much sense it makes, but the distinction, all right, and then the rest of it is the boilerplate instructions. And she did testify, so we'll need to take out the page where it says she did not.
Did you already send us a copy of that?
I'm sorry?
Did you already send us a copy of that?
No.
Oh,
All right. If you want, come back to my office and Ms. Mullins can make copies of what you've got is just gonna have my scribbles on it. It's not gonna be corrected yet, but you're welcome to that. That way you'll know where we're going with it in the morning.
and you said that we're gonna start back at 9 o'clock?
I don't think I know, unless one of us is caught in sitting in a parking lot disguised as.
Okay, y'all. So what's gonna happen now is they was going over her convictions. So tomorrow at 9 o'clock, it's gonna they're gonna read the verdict out to us. But neglect, I don't think they're gonna add assault. They're gonna assault. They're gonna say I'm not sure what they're gonna say tomorrow, but this she is gonna be punished for what she did to her child. She admit a lot of things that she did wrong, and she was trying to protect her 2-year-old and trying not to accuse him of doing it. He trying to act like that he's the one that did it, but he's not the one that did that to her child. She did a lot of lying. Y'all heard the case. You know, we've been here over 2 hours, and this she took the stand. She took the stand, and she admit to her neglection with that gun, you know, and she did put the gun outside herself. And she also, like the officer said, detective said earlier, oh, did y'all see she just moved that gun off the door to the closet? Okay. She tried like she was smoking a cigarette. And then all of a sudden, look, y'all, they just come from the park. They had a good day at the park, having a good time at the park. And then all of a sudden, the gun go off. Come on, y'all. What in the world y'all think about a gun for? After having a good time at the park. And she even said when she came home from the park, they was what? Sleep, right? That's what she said, right? After leaving the food in the crock pot. So Robin has been accused of negligence of unaliving her beautiful daughter. What's the baby name? I can't remember all the names, but we'll be here tomorrow morning. I'm off from work tomorrow. We off from work tomorrow. So we'll be here early in the morning at the 9 o'clock conviction verdict hearing. I want to thank y'all for being here throughout this trial. You know, we got so many young kids, you know, due to the fact of parents not putting the gun up where kids shouldn't even reach it, period. They shouldn't even know where it is located, period. You know where a gun is located, period. So if the child want to know where it was, then the child couldn't get reach to it. But we're going to find out tomorrow what the verdict is going to be. And I want to thank y'all for being here. Y'all make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. And another thing, I would like to thank Law and Crime for the engineering part of this crime, this conviction, because this murder trial, because without them, I couldn't do what I want to do and see there. I think that the prosecutor did an awesome job and the detective did a good job on the stand. I'll see y'all tomorrow, and I love y'all, and thank you very much. I'm out.